7:04.
Patty, you ready? The meeting is called to order. We're reconvening from closed session. There is no action to report from the closed session. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Patty, do we have somebody? Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 7 is the adoption of the agenda as presented. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second. Is there a discussion?
No.
All right, it's been moved and second to adopt the agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And do we have a student? Yeah. 5 plus 1 to approve. And student, staff, community recognition. Dr. Shuck?
Good evening. I'm very excited to introduce the principal of Cunha Intermediate School, Mr. Jarrett Dooley, who's going to recognize some students and community members for their work with the Odyssey of the Mind project. And I would like to point out that some of the people you're going to hear about this evening, I recognize them from previous schools, elementary schools, and I think it's really great to see that they're continuing their volunteering.
Thank you, Dr. Shuck. I'm going to raise that up. I have the pleasure tonight of recognizing a very special group of students, parents, and community members, as well as a staff member, as Dr. Shuck alluded to, for their work with our Odyssey of the Mind Club and competition team. This group just participated in San Jose in the Odyssey of the Mind competition, and they won their division. For those that are not aware, Odyssey of the Mind is an international educational program that provides creative problem-solving opportunities for students from kindergarten through college. Team members apply their creativity to solve problems that range from building mechanical devices. I'll just keep talking loud. It sounds like a mic. Am I right?
Yes, it's
okay.
good.
Range from building mechanical devices to presenting their own interpretation of literary classics. They then bring their solutions to competition on the local, state, and the world level. This group of students, with the support of their coaches, have met weekly on Mondays at campus. So the students that have participated and successfully won their division include Lonnie Southern, Zachary Troutman, they've done this before. Shay Heath, Eve Kearns, Casey Coe, and Stuart Yeager. All right, obviously our group of students wouldn't be what they are without our magical group of adults that helped coach them, drive them, and overall committed to the program for the year. And that includes Rick Southern, one of our coaches.
All right, good.
Tonvo. Greg Troutman. Lisa Hansen. Greg Mindell. Lisa Heath. Katie Yeager. Gary Yeager. Patrick Coe. Cindy Chong. Kristen Kearns. And Dan Kearns. And last but not least, Janice Lee, who is one of our 2 counselors at CUNY. I'm not sure she made it. She was actually still working on 8th grade registration, if you can believe that. So a very nice congratulations and recognition for all involved in our Odyssey of the Mind club and competition team. And best of luck, UC Riverside on the 28th of March.
There we go.
Congratulations all, we're very proud of you. We're on item number 9, which is comments from the public related to items not on this agenda. I have a green sheet from a Mr. Jeff Mills. Good evening.
Thanks.
Mr. Mills, before you begin, I'd like to make a public announcement that the governing board appreciates the community's input, and the public comment portion of the meeting is the time to address the board. However, the California public meeting laws prohibit the board from discussing any item that is not on the posted agenda. So therefore, we will not be able to respond to any issue that you bring forward at this time. And if your interest is to have an item placed on the agenda in the future, please see Dr. Tony Rourke, our superintendent.
Thanks.
Okay.
Today you're going to hear from several members of our community that, like me, have massive fear of public speaking, so please be patient with us. I'm a local resident with 3 young boys. Our oldest attends TK here at Hatch. My wife and I want, and many of our community are hoping to send all of our children through the Half Moon Bay public school system from TK all the way through 12. The biggest piece of advice we give people moving to Half Moon Bay is you can't sleep in Half Moon Bay. You have to live here. This is a bilingual community. It's a community that's founded on agriculture and the real cowboys of the West. We want to raise our children by embracing the culture that surrounds us and to continue to bridge the growing gap that is dividing our city. The immersion program is the foundation of that. The numbers don't lie. Siblings coming to the program next year are filling 2 full classes. Please don't cut back this program. It's working. We understand the space at Hatch is very limited. We don't want to cast stones. We want to work with you to find solutions to this problem. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mills. Mr. Darren Hart.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Darren Hart. I'm the father of 2 boys in the immersion program. Atticus, who's
You're not first.
well, I'm following my lead here
There
from
are
the
several
board
other
president.
names, so
Sorry, all those names, we have an order, and Darren was nice enough to fill out the top.
I reserve my time for later in the meeting.
Kate, do you mind if we go?
absolutely, yes, of course. Speakers are listed, and they're Amy Risk, Patty Ramirez, Darren Hart, there you are, Darren. Alice Linsmeyer, Eve Cairns, Maria, Denise, and Abby.
That's right.
All right.
Couldn't do the last names after a while. So thank you all. I want to thank all the parents for coming. This is a great turnout. And I just wanted to tell you how much we appreciate having you all take time out of your busy schedules. I know like the last thing we want to do is another meeting at night when we have lots of family responsibilities. And so thank you. I just wanted to say that. And we've heard your request for time for 3 minutes per speaker to a max of 20 minutes. And we've timed everyone, and we're very organized, and we're trying not to repeat ourselves. And so we just ask, for mutual respect, we have 20 minutes exactly. And if we go a couple minutes over, please don't gong us. We're tight. And one other thing I just wanted to say, that no matter how many emails we could send out asking people to come or requesting, if this wasn't personally compelling for people and very important, they wouldn't be here. So I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time.
Patty Ramirez.
Patty Ramirez's daughters and the 5th grade, her name is Carmen, as Carmen is going to translate for Patty.
This is my daughter, Carmen. My name is Patricia Ramirez, and this is my daughter, Carmen Olivia Ramirez. Mi nombre es Patricia Ramírez, soy mexicana y soy maestra en mi país de origen. Tengo 3 hijos en el programa de inmersión porque lo considero importante y necesario para el futuro prometedor de mis hijos. En un mundo tan globalizado que la alfabetización bilingüe es necesaria.
My name is Patsy Ramirez. I am Mexican and am a teacher in my country of origin. I have 3 children in the immersion program because I consider it important and necessary for a promising future for my children. In such a globalized world, bilingual literacy is necessary.
Soy voluntaria en el programa de ALAS, que consiste en cultura y arte, pero bicultural de este lado, porque mis hijos son mexicoamericanos. ALAS provee en estos últimos 4 años clases para más de 100 niños que son organizados por los padres de familia, como es la danza folclórica, mariachi, y además el programa de tutoría con el acompañamiento de tutores de la Universidad de Notre Dame de Namur para los niños 2 días a la semana.
I am a volunteer in the ALICE program that consists of culture and art, but it is bicultural on this side because my children are Mexican American. For the past 4 years, ALICE provides classes for over 100 children, organized by the parents, such as folk dancing and mariachi, and also a tutoring program with tutors from Notre Dame de Namur University twice a week.
La comunicación es un elemento muy importante para el crecimiento de cada individuo. La comunicación escrita y oral son importantes para el educando. El niño requiere una sana, valiosa, clara y sencilla comunicación entre casa y escuela, para enseñar a hablar y escribir con sentido y con corrección. Para las familias hispanoparlantes, es una herramienta muy valiosa para el éxito del niño.
Communication within the family is a very important element for the development of each individual. Written and oral communication is important for learners. Children require a healthy, valuable a healthy, valuable, clear, and straightforward communication between home and school. They need to be taught to speak and write meaningful and correctly. For the Spanish-speaking parents, it is a very valuable tool for the success of their children.
La inmersión es una bendición para el distrito. El éxito de este programa ofrece a las familias la formación de profesionales de alto nivel académico y los hace aptos para contribuir al perfeccionamiento de nuestra sociedad, porque nuestros niños están heredando un mundo globalizado.
The immersion program is a blessing for the district. The success that this program offers the families is a high-level professional development, and it makes them able to contribute to the improvement of our society, because our children are inheriting a global world.
Ya que este distrito tiene la capacidad de apoyar a otros programas magnos futuros en esta escuela, también están a la vanguardia en la educación y alfabetización de los educandos.
Since this district has the capacity to support other future model programs in other schools, they are also on the vanguard of education and literacy of the student learners.
Yo soy testigo del éxito de este programa, ya que ha funcionado dentro de mi familia. Algunos de ellos son profesionales, abogados, ingenieros, maestros. Ellos radican en las ciudades de Bakersfield y Oxnard. También este programa está en Orange County, Long Beach y Oxnard, con programas de inmersión hasta la secundaria. Considere las formas en que este programa puede impulsar a que los estudiantes a otras oportunidades en un país tan diverso y de gran riqueza multicultural.
I am a witness to the success of this program as it has functioned within my family. Some of them are professionals, lawyers, engineers, and teachers. They come from cities like Orange County, Long Beach, Bakersfield, and Oxnard, where they have immersion programs through high school. Consider the ways that this program can boost the students to other opportunities in such a diverse country and with such multicultural richness.
Cuña es la pieza que falta en este momento. Necesitamos currículo riguroso en español y un coordinador de kindergarten hasta el 12º grado de inmersión para garantizar la continuidad de Hatch a Cuña y en Cuña y a Half Moon Bay High School. El coordinador a nivel del distrito puede hacer la gran diferencia en el puente del idioma.
Cuña is the missing piece at this moment. We need rigorous curriculum in Spanish and a kindergarten to 12th grade immersion coordination to guarantee the continuity from Hatch to Cuña and in Cuña and to HMB High School. The district level immersion coordinator can make a difference in language bridge.
Todos los que estamos de acuerdo con lo que dije, por favor, ponerse de pie.
Anyone who agrees with what I said, please stand.
Thanks to everyone, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
would like to add my thanks. I think that the students that are coming to speak this evening show a lot of initiative, and I'm very proud of the students that are here.
We are too.
So I'll begin again with an introduction, not to go too far afield off the script. But I'm Darren Hart. I have two boys in the immersion program, one here in 5th grade at Hatch, and the other in 7th grade at Cunha. In addition to being the father of two great boys, I'm also the head of a clinical operations organization in a biotech company here in the Bay Area. As such, I use, analyze, and rely on data every day. And so I get the privilege of being the wonky speaker and talking about the data as it relates to our program here and the best practices program that we would like to see implemented within the district. Let me begin with the district's own data. The board commissioned a task force to evaluate the current Spanish immersion program. As part of that task force work, it was to survey the immersion students and the parents of those immersion students to gain insight into the current program and to provide direction to the board about the program in the future. That data is very clear. Almost 1/3 of the students in Cunha indicated that they did not believe their Spanish language skills were improved during the immersion program in Cunha. Nearly 70% of the students surveyed believed that a Spanish immersion program that included classes in core content areas would indeed improve their Spanish speaking skills, Spanish language skills. 87% of the parents surveyed indicated that their goal for the immersion program and their children in the immersion program was full literacy in both Spanish and English, being able to read, speak, and write at a high academic level in both languages. However, I think the most influential statistic is not one generated by the task force, but rather one provided by the district. That is, across all programs, immersion and English only 60% of the English language learners in the district achieve English language proficiency by grade 10. This is a district-wide issue and not specific to immersion. This is the issue we should focus on. We should focus first on what is best for those who matter, the students. The answer is simple. It is not based upon belief or intuition or opinion. It is based upon the overwhelming volume of data. The answer is to implement a structured, comprehensive dual language immersion program from kindergarten through 8th grade at Cunha and on to high school. As the board is aware, Dr. Molina presented data, indicated on the chart that Amy's standing next to, from a San Diego district comparing the performance of English proficient students with English language learners in an immersion program against their peers in an English-only program. This data shows clearly that students in the immersion program, regardless of native language, perform lower than their peers in the English-only program at 5th grade. However, all students in the immersion program, regardless of native language, outperform their peers in 8th grade. The takeaway message from these data is that for English learners to gain the benefit of a true immersion program, the program must sustain them and support them through 8th grade. This is not unique data. This position is further supported by the research of Dr. Elizabeth Howard from the University of Connecticut. She states in a 2004 paper that in order to produce academic achievement, students ideally must be enrolled in dual language or two-way immersion programs for at least 7 years. Once again, this data is supported by an independent study conducted here locally through the Stanford Graduate School of Education in conjunction with the San Francisco Unified School District, where they studied over 18,000 students in that district for 10 years. Students that were in English immersion, that's their term for English only, transitional bilingual, maintenance bilingual, and dual immersion programs, which is akin to our Spanish immersion here on the coast. It focused on two areas: How long did it take those kids to gain English proficiency? And what was the trajectory or the path of those students academically? The results were clear. English-only students, again, outperformed in the short term. In 5th grade, English, the kids that were in English only, or the English immersion program, performed better than their peers. However, long-term students taught in 2 languages not only caught their peers, but surpassed them both academically and linguistically in English and in Spanish, or their native language. Not surprisingly, the increase in academic and linguistic achievement for the English learners occurred after 5th grade. In fact, between 5th and 8th grade. Yes, continuing the Spanish immersion program through 8th grade would help the language acquisition of the children. Yes, it would achieve the stated goals of the parents of biliteracy in both languages. But more importantly, the data shows that continuing dual language instruction through 8th grade benefits the English language students in the program and gives them the highest chance for academic success and English proficiency. Stopping the dual language instruction denies those students that need it most, the English learners, the benefit of the program. Professor Reardon, the author of the Stanford study, said it best. The data shows that 2-language classrooms, those taught in English and their first native language, do better if given enough time. Focusing on the long term is key. We ask this board and the district to focus on the students, focus on the long term, implement the Spanish immersion program here as a true dual language program, K through 12th, and increase the immersion program at Cunha. For those that agree with me, I would ask that you please stand and acknowledge that agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Alice?
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Alice Linsmeyer, and I have 2 children in the immersion program here. Becoming bilingual and biliterate and bicultural is a real gift and an urgent need. Prioritizing all students in designing an immersion program with best practices through middle school is an equal access and a justice issue as well. But first, the gift. I personally know the gift of becoming bilingual and how long it takes to acquire a second language, and it's still in process. Que todavía está en proceso, ¿verdad? Though I studied Spanish and have a master's in multicultural education and have taught 4th and 5th grade Spanish immersion in the public schools, my greatest teachers are the Spanish-speaking communities in Central America, Mexico, and here, who've not only very patiently taught me Spanish, but also taught me real-life lessons of hope and hard work amidst difficulties, the value of community, and the value of helping others. So I see the immersion program at Hatch as a real gift on so many levels, and as a bridge that has been started and still needs completion. Now the need. Last year, demographers said the percentage of Latinos surpassed white non-Hispanics at a rate of 39% to 38.8% in California. The job market needs fully bilingual and biliterate employees. And here in Half Moon Bay, I hear how parents want to be able to fully communicate each other in English and in Spanish. We want to be one community that understands each other. And what I see as the most urgent reason to provide academic Spanish curriculum at Cunha for the immersion students is to provide equal access for our English language learners, or ELLs. This is a justice issue. My children's Spanish-speaking peers have been the language models for them to learn Spanish for years now. Research shows that core academic Spanish classes in 6th through 8th grades are where the native Spanish speakers would be able to benefit and take off academically within an immersion program. Recently, over 200 parents signed on to support Dr. Molina's recommendation for core curriculum in middle school, And I think you've seen some of these signatures, very diverse. The district and school board has known a lot of the research and information, has been studying this as well. If we prevent the known best practices from being left at hatch, it is the English language learners that do not benefit from the program. We have left them on the other side of the language and academic ravine without a bridge. We cannot wait to make advances for the ELL students any longer. It is only just that they have the opportunity afforded to their academic and linguistic education as their native English-speaking peers. We all want a good program for all of the children. It not only benefits us, but us as a community to have all students reach their academic goals and have the immersion program students all benefit from the resources that have already been invested. We will certainly learn from them, as the new immersion program is doing with 8th grade immersion students reading to CCP preschoolers in Spanish, a new program that's starting. An immersion bridge in middle school will have multiples of ripple effects in helping unifying our community. Please do not wait in building this bridge for them now. Martin Luther King once said, "For years now I have heard the word wait. This wait has almost meant never. We must come to see with one of our distinguished jurists that justice too long delayed is justice denied." This is the opportunity for us. I know the school board wants to do what is recommended as best practice and has real constraints. We all know it will take time, creativity, and the commitment of everyone. We can make a start by piloting core curriculum Spanish class or classes next year, evaluate it, and build on it by the time that 37% of CUNA will be immersion students in 4 years. This is our opportunity. Please don't wait. Help build the most important bridge before us that we can offer our immersion students and community. You have our commitment to help you. Thank you. If anyone agrees with what I said, please stand up.
First one was 10 minutes, second one was 7, that one was 5. So we're over.
Hi, my name is Eve Kearns, and I'm a 7th grader in the immersion program at CUNA. Hola, mi nombre es Eve, y soy en la programa de inmersión at CUNA. I didn't have a choice when I started, but I did choose to continue in immersion at CUNA. My goal is to be completely bilingual and able to read and write at a high level in Spanish. Unfortunately, my Spanish class this year does not seem to have a plan or curriculum. There don't seem to be any standards or expectations about what we will learn by the end of the year. I really feel like my language skills are going backwards. Because I'm planning to take math at the high school next year as an 8th grader, I will not be able to have a 0-period class, so that means I had to choose between Spanish and leadership at CUNA. I chose leadership because I'm pretty sure having tutoring outside of school will do more to prepare me for high school Spanish. I also have native Spanish-speaking friends who dropped out of the immersion program in middle school because they didn't feel like they were learning. This changed the class a lot. I have 2 younger sisters, so I'm asking the school board, the teachers, and the administration to do everything they can to make the program better for my sisters than it was for me. If there are other people in the audience who agree with me, please stand up to show your support.
Thank you. Maria? Maria's Daughters. Welcome. Just move that up. There you go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Paula Villegas. Hi, I'm Paula Villegas, and I attend to CUNA Intermediate School and to the immersion program. I believe that the immersion program has benefited me a lot academically, and next year I'm going to take both advanced Spanish and English.
Hi, my name is Maritza Villegas. I go to Huffman Bay High School, and I've been in the immersion program since kindergarten, and my mom doesn't know a lot of English, Since I was in the immersion program, she was able to help me with my homework because most of it was in Spanish, which allowed me to do good in school. Thank you.
Yo soy María Huerta, la mamá de estas dos niñas, y cuando las puse en el programa de inversión, a mí me fue fácil porque mi idioma solo era español y ellas están muy bien. Ya las escucharon en inglés y español avanzado. Y por favor, párense los que estén de acuerdo en apoyar este puente.
Denise?
Hello. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Denise Phillips, and our children, Zoe and Alexander, went through the immersion program and promoted out of Cunha in 2013. We continue to be strong supporters of the immersion program. I'm also currently board chair for the HEAL project. I was the SEPA board president for 3 years while our kids were at Hatch, and even then the district struggled to accommodate the popularity of the program. There was a waiting list. Our kids were the last class to go through with only 2 kindergartens. Now it's up to 4, so there's clearly a growing demand from the community within the district for a robust immersion program. My son and I attended the public meeting held several weeks ago at Cunha with Dr. Molina about best practices in an immersion program. A tremendous turnout from the community, much like this evening, clearly indicates the desire for an implementation of a strong K-8 program with best practices here in our district. The elected members of the governing body of CUSD need to be proactive in this regard and adopt and support best practices as recommended by Dr. Molina, a consultant in the field who was hired by the district for her expertise. It's been 24 years since we had an immersion at Hatch. It should be rock solid by now. This has taken a really long time. Other districts with similar demographics make it work, so can we. Typically, it's the superintendent's decision to work with staff and outside experts to build successful school programs. We have an excellent superintendent in Dr. Rorick. He's highly respected as a great leader and collaborator and has brought a great degree of transparency to the district. I urge the school board to throw its full support behind him and let him do his job and implement a K-8 best practices immersion program for all the students. Thank you.
And saving the best for last, Abby?
Thanks, Miss Livingston. How are we doing on time, by the way?
We're way over. But
I will shorten my speech, but I need to start by saying a shout out to the Hatch kids, because at the very beginning of the evening, we saw the presentation of the awards, and 5 out of 6 of those kids went through Hatch, and 4 out of 6 were immersion. So. I take credit for 3 of them. They started in kindergarten with me. My name is Abby Foster, and I have been an immersion teacher in this district for 19 years. I've also taught abroad in Spain and Guatemala, teaching immersion all the while. And my job here tonight is just to summarize why we're here and what we're asking for. And again, I don't want to reiterate what's already been said, so I just kind of want to skip over, and if there's anything that I feel hasn't been mentioned, I will bring it up. One of the questions that I've heard asked a lot is about tracking. People are worried that if the immersion students stay together for the core language arts program and social studies, that they'll then be stuck in this track and they'll never be able to integrate with the other students. And the answer that I see is that it has worked in other districts, and I think that I have faith that our administrators will be able to work that out. I know Dr. Rorick wouldn't be recommending it if it didn't seem possible to him, and he didn't believe in our Cunha administrators. Also, and when you think about the fact that the native Spanish speakers who are not reclassified by 5th grade are now being pulled out to receive remedial ELD, that seems like more of a detrimental tracking situation, where now those students are really being tracked and pulled away from their other immersion peers, just at the time when, as all this data has shown, they most need the support in Spanish, in their native language. Obviously, you all care very much about the students in this district and their success, or else you wouldn't be here giving your time to the board or working for the district or attending this meeting. We're so close to having the program that we know we could have. Then the only thing we have left is to build that bridge at Cunha, and I trust that you will all make that decision. just sitting here tonight listening to other people talk, it made me think about all the training that we're receiving now in the Common Core standards and what we're asking our students to do with the Common Core standards and why we've adopted these standards is to say, don't be afraid to just jump in and give it a try. And if you make a mistake, you can fix it. And if something doesn't seem to be going right, you can steer in a different direction. And so I feel like instead of waiting and saying, we need to make sure it's right, everything's perfect, we need to do what we're asking our kids to do, which is jump in, give it a try. If we find out that something doesn't work perfectly, change it up a little bit. But the kids who are going into 6th grade next year don't want to miss out on this opportunity. These kids, Carmen is going to be in 6th grade next year. Let's not take away this opportunity for her to develop this strong bilingual and biliterate skill that she will need in the future. So I just would like to close with a quote from Dr. Catherine Lindholm Leary. She's somebody, when I was getting my master's degree in language and literacy, she's somebody that I really learned to respect, and I've read a lot of research by her. And these are words that she sent to us in consultation with her. Research shows that it is during middle school that we truly see the long-term impact of bilingualism working for students, particularly English learners. At the secondary level, we see that two-way dual language students are more likely to be reclassified as fluent English proficient, continue to demonstrate growth toward grade level norms, are more likely to pass the high school exit exam, and are less likely to drop out of school. And that's a piece of data that hasn't been talked about tonight, but it's overwhelming how the way the immersion program helps to lower dropout rates, which I know is an issue here as it is everywhere. This is why there's such a movement now toward developing programs at the secondary level. And here we've had this 24 years, as Denise said, we've got such a strong program going. We finally, after all these years of struggle, we have a really strong staff. We have everything we need. And all we need now is that piece, the middle school. So thank you very much. And if you agree with me, please stand up.
Thank you, Abby. Sandra Sanchez-Ryan.
Hi, my name is Sandra Sanchez-Ryan. I don't have anything prepared. I speak out of passion. I was born in Mexico City. I am completely biliterate. I am bicultural. I moved to the United States when I was 12 years old, and I thank my parents every day because I went to a bicultural and biliterate school in Mexico City. Otherwise, my move to the United States would have been harder than it is. I work at Univision Communications. I have been an account executive, and I work for marketers. I help marketers target the Hispanic community in the United States. I know we've heard how diverse everything is. I am completely fluent in Spanish, and I have 3 children here in the immersion program. I moved to Half Moon Bay because of this program. I am a little upset with myself because I have waited until my son is in 5th grade to address the board, because every year I have heard it's happening at Cunha, it's happening at Cunha, it's going to happen at Cunha, and now my 5th grader will be at Cunha in 3 months. And as everyone has said, the bridge is still not complete. So I'm urging the board to please help families and this whole community to close that bridge and help our students and our community complete a successful immersion program. Thank you very much.
So next year, kindergarten, okay. Thank you. Elizabeth Perlson.
Hi, I think I was supposed to speak after Jeff Mills, so we're going to go back in time to the earlier days. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Perlson. I live in Moss Beach. My daughter, Saldana Constant, will be entering kindergarten this fall. hopefully at Hatch in the immersion program. As a taxpayer, a community member, and also a former public school teacher, I'm so excited that the Coast offers a bilingual education through public school. I'd like to thank the board for supporting this program. That said, it does concern me that this year there could be a cutback. 2 out of the 3 kindergarten classes are already filled with siblings. This leaves 1 class left if there is not to be a 4th class. So there aren't going to be that many new students coming to Hatch this fall in the immersion program. I understand that space seems to be the issue. Space is limited. I understand that Hatch is going to go through a huge construction next year with a new school and everything, which is wonderful. But I really beg you to be creative, to think outside the box so that we can figure out a way to just maintain the 4 classes. We don't need to backtrack now. We need to figure out a way to move forward. The books are already bought. It wouldn't cost the district any more money to keep the 4th class. Maybe we could think about putting a class in a different site. Maybe we could build some portables. As an Oakland public school teacher many years ago, I taught in a portable a lot. It can happen and it can work. The other issue is not bringing new students in will also not bring new parents in, parents who really want to contribute to this program. I'm sure we need more funding for the PTO. I'm sure we could use more funding for music, art, athletics. I'm sure the foundation could use more money. People who are invested in immersion also want to support these organizations. And finally, the world is just becoming smaller. To be successful, knowledgeable, compassionate, thoughtful, and understanding, we as parents believe that the immersion program is what's going to contribute to these attributes in our children. So for this reason, I really beg you to think hard, and we'll all work together to find a way to maintain the 4 classes so that my daughter can have a bilingual education, something that I wasn't able to do for myself. Thank you. Oh, and if you agree with me, can you stand up?
Thank you. Maria Mulkey, did I pronounce your name right? Yes.
I'm not as tall as Liz, so I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Hello, my name is Maria Mulkey, and I've been a co-sider for more than 10 years. I love this community, and I consider myself very fortunate to call it home. Professionally, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Personally, I'm the mother to a 4-year-old child that will start kindergarten this fall. As a member of this community, as a social worker, and as a mother, I believe in diversity. I believe in the value of public schools. Public schools help teach children acceptance, respect, and inclusiveness. Children learn alongside other students that not only differ from them in race and ethnicity, but also their cognitive abilities, physical abilities, socioeconomic status, and so on. When it comes to public schools on the coast, so many parents who have a choice choose to send their children to a private institution. But in order to be successful, a public school requires the support of those very families, the families that have the time, the influence, the assets, and the voice. If all families with a choice choose to jump ship, that ship will indeed sink. It becomes, in essence, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Conversely, if parents who have a choice choose public schools, it benefits not only their children, but all of our children, and that benefits our community as a whole. I certainly do not want to see the Cabrillo Unified Immersion Program cut back. In fact, I believe it should be expanded to allow an opportunity for any and every student in our community whose family wishes for their child to attend. If due to new construction there are indeed barriers to the number of kindergarten immersion classrooms that can be housed at Hatch Elementary, I urge you to think outside the box regarding other possibilities, such as serving immersion students on different coastside elementary school campuses. In conclusion, I am reminded of the African proverb, "It takes a village to raise a child." This means that a child does not just grow up within their family's home and circumstances. This means that regardless of a child's upbringing and family resources or lack thereof, that child belongs to and is shaped by his community. This is the kind of village that I want to live in, and I think that you do too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jessica Neves? Did I miserably?
Close. Nieves.
Nieves.
Hi, my name is Jessica Nieves. I'm a mother of 2 multiracial daughters. I married into my Latin last name and would love for it to be more than that for my children. I would love for it to be a culture, a way of life. My Vietnamese mother-in-law fell in love with a Latin soldier and had my husband during the Vietnam War. After the U.S. pulled out of Vietnam, she knew she couldn't provide a safe life for her son. So she did everything that she could to flee her country and reunite her family. Those times were different. Everybody wanted to be American. So my father-in-law forbid my husband, then a 3-year-old little boy, to speak his first language, Vietnamese. And sadly enough, he did not pass on the Spanish language either. I know my story is nowhere close to the struggles and the sacrifices that my very brave mother-in-law went through, but I feel very strongly about having both of my children not losing their heritage and their culture. And what better way to learn it through the immersion program here at the Hatch. Like my mother-in-law, I'm a fighter. I stand up for what I believe in, and I want what's best for my children. By opening up another classroom, you would be giving my children the gift of a language that would have otherwise just been a name. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Heckman?
Hello, my name is David Heckman, and I'm a father of 2 young boys on the coast. I first want to thank the board for being here and the hard work that you guys do. I know it's not easy, especially when it comes to finances. I think by now the board should realize, and should have realized earlier, that 2/3 of the immersion program was going to be taken up by siblings, and should plan for that. I think that in the upcoming years, we shouldn't have to be here asking for this program to be implemented further. I think it should be obvious now what the community wants, how they want the immersion program to go moving forward, expanding throughout the district. So the board, as representative of the community and guiding this system for us, I think should realize by now that it's going to take a lot of work, but obviously we want the immersion program expanded. The board, I hope, knows that by now and will remember that in the upcoming years. And, I don't want to see it become one of those issues where people are running for school board and it's going to be pro-immersion, not pro-immersion, just like it's pro-building, no pro-building when it comes to city council. So hopefully now, especially based on, when you look at everybody here tonight, it's obviously an important program. I think it's important. I'm hoping my children will be involved in it and be able to make it in. But I don't think we should have to fight for a 4th class. I think that should have been obvious that it was going to be needed, and something should have been done prior to, now. So I guess my point was, hopefully we can move forward and this system can expand throughout the district without us having to be here doing this every time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for participation. And if you agree with me, stand up and support it. All right. We're going to move on to agenda item number 10, which is the representative reports. Is there somebody from CUTA who'd like to take this mic? Mr. Cox?
Is he not going to come up?
No.
Oh, he said no.
He said, I'm not following that.
All right, CSEA? Nothing?
Things that they're talking about. There's some good press, really.
Shall I wait?
They don't want to hear that's fine.
We're moving on to agenda item number 11, reports, information, and presentations. Dr. Shuck?
Don't leave. Mr. Ward's about to give a presentation on Hatch School. So as you know, governing board members, that we have been sharing with you information about our implementation of Common Core state standards across each of our schools. And this evening, coincidentally, it happens to be the evening that Mr. Jim Ward, principal of...
Just a moment, thank you. Can you be quiet?
Please, if you're having a conversation, could you take it outside? Otherwise, we welcome you to take an empty chair and watch this presentation by Mr. Jim Ward, for what is happening with Common Core at Hatch Elementary. So come forward, lots of empty chairs. Come on now, don't be shy.
Sorry, Elizabeth.
Jim, what are you going to have? 15 minutes? 10 minutes? Okay, come on up.
Mr. Ward is very excited to share with you the implementation at Hatch Elementary School.
It's the wrong one. That's okay. That's the wrong PowerPoint. Stand up. Let's talk about it anyway.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the board. Thank you, President Livingston, for this opportunity to present. I'm a little bit nervous, so I'm going to try to take a deep breath and calm down. So thank you. This is a very exciting time in education. I was asked tonight to present the Common Core Standards implementation here at Hatch Elementary School. And when I spoke at the Chamber of Commerce board meeting in January, I gave a similar presentation, and I just got very excited talking about what the teachers are doing and what is going on here at Hatch Elementary School and all the elementary schools here on the coast side. So we are getting great district-wide support. The first point that I want to make clear for everyone is the elementary teachers on special assignment for support and guidance. It's a great opportunity that our district has implemented this year. We have two excellent teachers, Amy Rhodes and Lynn Kelly, and it's such an honor to work with such dynamic educators who care so deeply about the success of our children and the success of our teachers. We also have this year a new specialized program coordinator, Katie Dugan, who provides oversight, input, and support. She's very dedicated to our success here in the Cabrillo Unified School District. Teachers have been also attending the Silicon Valley Math Initiative training days and having great follow-up by our teachers on special assignment. It is a time for teachers to collaborate and grow in their math teaching practices. And the Teachers College of Reading and Writing workshop trainings are organized again by our TOSAs and our district to support our teachers and even new teachers who come into the district. Hatch had a couple new teachers arrive this year, and during the course of the school year, and this is an opportunity for them to hone their skills and to work on what they're doing. I'm going to talk about mathematical practices. The teachers are implementing and even translating into Spanish, as part of the immersion program, the Engage New York curriculum in conjunction with existing math practices. The program we currently use is Everyday Math. So teachers are using different programs, they are piloting in their classrooms, and they are exploring new math practices with their students. Also, teachers are implementing number talks into existing lessons. And I brought with me tonight a Number Talks book. that the district has been providing through Common Core funds and helping teachers have the strategies and the abilities to implement these wonderful number talks into their classrooms. I used to feel that way about math as well until number talks. It's just math, don't worry. The SVMI lessons and strategies that are implemented from the trainings, teachers in the Cabrillo Unified School District have been made available to go to 4 full training days at Fairlawn View Elementary School. They've been provided substitute teachers to go and have lessons in math, news Mars tasks, and strategies, and to implement them in their classrooms and have time to plan and strategize. It's been wonderful. The collaboration that teachers have been able to do has been able to work together to come back to their sites and explore the curriculum, including Engage New York. Here at Hatch, we have different teachers at different grade levels implementing. We have first grade teachers, third grade teachers, fifth grade teachers implementing this and piloting lessons in their classrooms. Also, teachers are setting up lab sites here at Hatch and other schools with support of our TOSAs to go into a classroom, teach a lesson in Common Core math strategies, watch the lesson in action, go outside, back over to the district office, which here at Hatch is very close by, and to debrief and talk about what they learned, and then go back into the classroom. Teachers are using professional development time at our site and other sites to plan lessons with those SVMI strategies. Again, that's Silicon Valley Math Initiative. I'm going to talk now about English language arts. Teachers are implementing and translating into Spanish. I want to notate that in here at Hatch, because teachers are taking the extra time to take the Common Core standards and translating, because a lot of the new materials are not yet translated into Spanish. And they're taking, implementing and translating Teachers College of Reading and Writing curriculum. They are implementing academic conversations into existing lessons in English language arts, science, and social studies. We've been working with this wonderful book, Academic Conversations, and through this book, teachers have had additional lab sites at their, in their classrooms, supported again by our elementary TOSAs. I brought this ring of 5 cards, and students are learning strategies to have conversations like we all have every day in the classroom over curriculum matters. They are using the strategies to elaborate and clarify, and they're telling each other, using signals to pull their hands apart. They are using ideas to support, they support ideas with examples from the text or real-world instances or their own life. They are building on the challenging others' ideas, and they are paraphrasing, and they are synthesizing the whole conversation and bringing things back together. It's an excellent strategy. Children really learn. They say things like, "I didn't know how much I knew until I really talked about it." It's really wonderful to witness. And again, here at Hatch, we have a program called Accelerated Reader for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and we are getting varied and more nonfiction texts with that program, with Scholastic News. Teachers are ordering things supported through CEF to and implement informational literacy in their classrooms. It's really wonderful to go see. I was in a 4th grade class today. Teachers through Accelerated Reader had our Chromebooks up in their classes. Students were reading nonfiction articles on the Depression. They were commenting with each other via the Chromebooks and getting feedback from their teachers. It was completely quiet in the room as they were working. Teachers are granted and given time to collaborate, working with staff. The TOSAs come and work with our staff, and they model lessons. I mentioned earlier the number talk lessons. You can see academic conversation lessons just to built the same way, where there is time before and after to debrief and talk about what happened. New teachers are receiving, again, training through the Teachers College, guided by our teachers on special assignment, Lynn and Amy, to hone their skills and update their knowledge already that they have, and how it especially relates to the Common Core standards. And again, these opportunities are organized and supported by the district. The good news is that teachers are, again, they are actively trying out new strategies in their classrooms. They are excited to cross the bridge to the Common Core. I was in a meeting the other day, and one of my colleagues said that this is not a fad in education. This is not one of those binders that we're going to try a program and it'll fall by the wayside. This is not a pendulum swing, but rather this is a new approach and a more dynamic approach that will help our students become 21st century learners and 21st century citizens. The teachers feel supported, again, by the district and the TOSAs. It's not perfect because there are struggles every day as teachers in our education system, but it is really good, and a lot of good things are happening. Again, students enjoy the approach as they engage in and they take ownership in their learning. I invite community members or board members here to come to our classrooms to see and explore, and you will enjoy it. Thank you.
I would like to congratulate Mr. Ward and the staff at Hatch for their work they're doing. And if you agree with me, stand up and show your support.
Yes, Jim, don't go away. There might be a question. The hot seat continues.
Thank you.
So I have a question, Jim. You indicate a lot of time is being spent, or possibly a lot of time is being spent by teachers translating documents?
Well, for example, our curriculum is not in Spanish. So we have, we have teachers 4th and 5th grade level who committed this year to teach Spanish in the Spanish. One of our 4th grade teachers, Yahaira Denad, and a 4-5 split teacher, Maria King, took those lessons and translated them in Spanish because they are committed to the curriculum and they committed to trying out new Common Core standards. So it's extra work on their part, and I just wanted to point that out because they are, I believe, taking the time and really implementing the new Common Core strategies and not just going what is available and what is there. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I would like to acknowledge that extra effort. That's a big burden.
Yeah, it's happening at other grade levels as well.
Yeah, I hope that going forward, you can find.
Standing back there too. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. King. Going forward, is some of this material going to be available, already translated, or are we going to have this to do every year?
Well, I think I know that maybe Dr. Rourke has a better answer on the curriculum. I know that the curriculum, like everything else in Common Core, is in transition. So we're looking at available curriculums and what is translated, what fits into what we're already doing, and what as we move forward. And in particular, I know that math is one area that we're looking at. So I don't know the complete answer to that, but I think it is an ongoing developing issue. Would you say so?
I would.
Yes. Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
No, it's fine. No, instructional materials aligned to Common Core they're not readily available, and so we are finding pieces here and there and putting them together. And unfortunately, for the most part, they aren't translated either. So this is a work in progress, and as the Common Core becomes more established and publishers begin to put out materials, they will also be putting them out in multiple languages too.
And one thing I wanted to point out to Dr. Reamer and the rest of the board is that sometimes translations in Spanish are authentic translations, and sometimes they're more like what you would get as a Google translation, and they're not as academically sound for our students.
Sure.
So that's one of the issues.
Well, yeah, I guess my concern was that since we're not the only district making this transition, nor the only district with people that we'd like to be able to teach it in Spanish as well. So is this coordinated such that, or are we reinventing the wheels kind of? It's wonderful that Mrs. King has taken the time and effort, and this is very laudable, but I would hope that this could be a shared burden nationwide.
Yeah, I'm confident that it is. I think that with Silicon Valley Math Initiative and I think others, I think that it's moving that way and moving quickly, and I think it will be sound.
Great.
Yeah, I believe it will be.
Also, if I could just add, the timelines are driven in large part by the state's adoption cycle. And so publishers prepare materials on large scale. I mean, there are always those out there who are, like Silicon Valley Math Initiative, engaged in New York, for example. But I would defer to Dr. Shuck for the timelines for those, but those are 2 and 3 years away for math and language arts before we're going to realistically see large-scale math programs and large-scale English language arts programs that are aligned to the Common Core and robustly translated.
The only materials that we've seen so far are materials that they have taken an old version of the curriculum, put a new label on, a page inside, an insert that says, on all of these pages, your standards relate to the Common Core in this way. So there are not yet new materials.
Perhaps we could have the Denard King Publishing Company go into business.
Right.
What do you say, Yahida and Maria? A little sideline.
Actually, we'll be selling stock in the back after the company.
Good. Thanks.
Hi.
Any other questions? No?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
very much.
Mr. Ward, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Item B is receive second interim budget presentation, and this could be a very interesting thing for those parents out there in the audience. How's our budget looking? Crystal?
Let's hope I can see some of these numbers from back here. So during each fiscal year, we have 2 interim reports. We have the first interim report and the second interim report, which the second interim report is from July 1 ending January 1st. The interim reports are a status of the overall financial health of a district. The interim reports must include a certification. There are 3 certifications, the first one positive, qualified, and negative. And during each fiscal year, it's kind of, we actually operate within several fiscal years within 1 year. While we are doing the adopted budget for the current year, we are working on the estimated actuals for the previous year. Then we transition to the unaudited actuals. Then we have the audit report while we are doing the first interim report for the current fiscal year. We get a little bit of a break during second interim. And then we move right into adopting the budget for 15-16, working on the estimated actuals, and then the cycle continues. The guidance used for second interim reporting was the LCFF gap funding provided earlier this year. The dependence of the LCFF entitlements on our unduplicated pupil counts, as well as the ADAs, which drives our state aid formulas for funding, which is a very complex formula. While most of the cuts from federal were restored, they still are asking us to budget them through 2023. And then we have our EPA, which is the Economic Protection Act, also known as Prop 30, which expires in 2016 for the sales tax portion. So as we look at our MYP, which is our multi-year projection, we have in this first column our current year and then the 2 out years. So our revenues are right here. This is our LCFF funding, which is our state aid. This is very interesting for Cabrillo this year because we are now an LCFF/revenue limit district, so we're funded on our ADA, where previously we were funded solely on our property tax. It's also very important to look at this line right here, because for the first time in a long time, we're projected to end in a positive note for this year. We are projected to end this year with a 5% reserve. It does go down. We do drop a little bit in 15-16. We do get some additional funding for the LCFF state aid in 15-16. This is actually our largest gain over the years. Our projections for expenditures remain somewhat flat with the exception of inflation. And for 15-16, we estimate a 4% reserve and 6.44 in 16-17. So we really start to see the recovery in that second year out. So I thought that this was a very important slide as we move forward budgeting for the next year. At first interim, these were our planning factors. So we had the COLA of 0.85, which remained the same for the second interim. And the LCFF gap funding went slightly down. The STRS remained the same, and the unrestricted, restricted, and block grant remained the same. Now, at budget time, back in July, this gap funding was about 32, so it had gone down. Now, the Department of Finance is recommending, they're projecting a 32% increase as well for the gap funding here. But at first interim, they only projected a 20%. So what is different between first interim projection in 15-16 and second interim projection 15-16 is a few more months of revenue. So they're able to project steady revenues, and therefore they believe that this gap funding is going to be about 32%. I like to tread a little bit on caution because this time last year, they also said that this year would be 32%. And then we go down a little bit in 16-17 from what the first interim was to the second interim. This lovely piece of work is our LCFF calculator. So you punch in a bunch of numbers and then you get all these crazy amounts. So our 14-15 column on our funding, this is related to state aid. So this doesn't include federal, none of our categoricals or specialized programs now referred to. So this is our state aid right here. So they're saying that for 14-15, our state aid is about 8.6. You can see in 13-14, we were starting to transition. 12-13, we have 0 state aid because we were completely basic aid. And we see here that our EPA was outside of our funding, but here, because we are LCFF, it is inside of our funding. So there's no excess EPA as in previous years. We can look down here and we see our unduplicated count. So we're estimating about a 43% for unduplicated count. This is very important. This drives our supplemental funding. The way that you qualify for the unduplicated count is through the free and reduced program. And those applications, they are not just for food, but they also qualify the district for a ton of funding, both on the state side and the federal side. So it is very important that we encourage all families, whether they qualify or not, to at least fill out the application. So we look at this graph here, and we can see that in 12-13, our property taxes were about the same as 13-14, because here we were basic aid. And then now we finally start getting into some state aid here, where it flips. So these are our categorical portions. And then you can see that we're continually going up. So we do have that biggest jump between these 2 years. But as the state aid grows, we decrease our property tax. So whatever property tax that's excess of the state aid and the formula that we are supposed to receive goes back to the state. And as we move forward, what is next is that the governor's proposal significantly increases funding for 15-16, and he is committed to LCFF. And although that there is a substantial amount of one-time funding proposal, we should know that it is just a proposal, and that we will know more in June when the budget is adopted. Now, we also adopt our budget in June, so it's a matter of trying to I guess, read that crystal ball correctly and figure out what we're doing for next year. But we definitely are moving in the right direction. We are becoming very fiscally healthy, and it's definitely a nice change to see some of those dollars really start to flow to Cabrillo.
Crystal?
Just for some of the folks in the audience that aren't familiar with this, it was something that I learned when I first came aboard. So we're at 4.5, heading towards maybe 5% in the general reserve. Like, okay. Well, what happens when you go below 3% in the state of California as a general reserve?
So 3% is our minimum state aid regulated reserve. I'd like to also point out that 3% would not cover one payroll at the district. So if you
Could you repeat that again for me?
3% reserve would not cover one payroll. So 3% sounds like a lot when we think about it.
Well, that's my
general,
point.
right?
5% might sound like we're really flush to some people here.
We would burn through 5% in probably 31, 32 days. A lot of districts are trying to communicate that so you could really get a feel of actually how long you could live off of a reserve if you weren't getting any funding. If we dropped below 3%, we would not be able to be certified positive, and anything below 3%, we do put ourselves through possibly a state takeover fiscally. If you drop below 3% and you're negative, unfortunately the board ceases to exist, as well as most of the time the superintendent and the CBO tend to get replaced. So it's definitely not something I would want us to do. And from the health of it, we're doing pretty good. So we are certified for positive, as well as we were for first interim. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your good work.
Thank you, Crystal. We move to item number 12. Thank you for sticking in there, you people. David, board, would you support them and let's all stand up?
Yes.
Thank you for sticking around. We're on item number 12, which is communications, board members. Freya, do you have anything? Michael?
I do. Two things that I'm excited about that I've been participating in. One has to do with how our district is looking at discipline throughout our school district, and ways that we can intervene and support kids in new ways. The state is, I think, moving in a direction towards looking at how schools suspend children and asking for a different way, so kids are spending more time on campuses and working through creatively with support. So I had a great meeting, and we worked with the Boys and Girls Club at this particular meeting, and there's some really exciting inroads now that are coming about, some strategies, middle school, high school. And the other group that Dr. Shuck, thanks to your driving support on this, is something very close to my heart, the music committee. So we had a great meeting. There's a really wonderful group of people, both principals and obviously music teachers, but also community members and administrators, board members. And we've been looking at how we can improve and strengthen music all the way from, K through 12. And one of the tasks that was put before me and my committee was to look for programs. Crystal was on that group with me, the research committee, Dudley, as well as Elizabeth. And so I started the process of looking around, and it turns out that Palo Alto Unified has a tremendous music program in place over there. And so I reached out, and they have a full-time music coordinator that oversees all their programs. Her name is Nancy, a fantastic woman. Had a conversation with her, told her about our school district, and she is very excited and has offered their hand in helping us improve the quality of our music program, and so looking forward to pulling that together, that bridge.
That bridge. Mr. Papalardo?
Yes. I don't have a mic. No. Here, there we go. I do have a mic. Okay, so a couple things. One, actually, probably four things. So I want to thank all the parents who came out tonight to share their voice, and it's just an important part of the public process to step up and talk about priorities and what's important in education for your children. As a board, our goal, regardless of the topic, is always to have a full view as possible so that we can make the decisions that we need to make relative to the strategies of the district, financial issues, and a multitude of others. So thank you for coming out. In terms of official capacity, a couple of things. So I serve as liaison to the Cabrillo Education Foundation. So participated in a couple of meetings since the beginning of the year, one last week. And just broadly, just very exciting to see what's happening with that organization. They really are going through transformational stage. They've hired an executive director, first real full-time employee. We're through the goal of taking funding to a new level, and not just from inside our community, but leveraging the resources primarily over the hill. There's lots of money in the valley, as we all know, and there's very large educational focused foundations, and they're building relationships there that didn't exist before, applying for grants that we didn't apply for before, and they're very, very significant dollars, with a primary focus on literacy in first kindergarten to third. So more will be coming, and they'll speak officially as things progress, and there are things to announce. But it's just incredibly impressive, and we're very blessed to have that group involved. I also, just as part of the board's general activities, we're each assigned to a school or two where we interact there, both with the principals, the staff, the PTOs, and the site councils. And I had the opportunity the last week or so to sit down with Jarrett and Ron at Cunha and the high school, respectively. And I won't take you through all the details of some long, productive conversations, but boy, the schools are in good hands, thoughtful leadership, thinking about development of our staff, what we can do to make the best educational experiences for our students, transparent communication, clear expectation setting. The community should be very pleased by the leadership there. Lastly, I've been going to lots of basketball games, which is sort of unofficial, both at the high school, the girls and boys at the high school who both made it to CCS. The girls were eliminated in the second round, but it bears repeating. They had the #1 GPA of any girls team from King City to Marin County. I mean, just incredible. It's really fantastic. The boys won their game against the CIF against a team out of Vallejo, a nail biter last night, so it was awesome. I've seen lots of middle school games because that's where my girls go. And I just want to thank all the coaches who commit so many hours. There's a stipend involved in it, but it's purely out of love that they do it, because the hours and time in practice and games and travel, it far exceeds any remuneration. So thanks to the coaches.
Thank
so
you.
That's it for me tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Reamer?
I just have one comment, and then it's just to reiterate what Crystal said in her presentation, that the district works very close to the bone financially. And if you think about that, paycheck to paycheck, that 3% reserves that we're required to hold by law is a pay period. There's not a lot of extra money laying around here. We're a small district. Thanks.
I don't have a report to make, but I have something to bring up to my fellow board members. I'd like you to consider, and maybe there's a history here that I don't know, that we do a discussion item as item number 15, the very last thing on our agenda. And tonight is an excellent example that we'll be going late on those discussion items. I'm wondering if there isn't a history and a reason why, if we could do a combination of item number 11 and 15. We don't need to make a decision on it now, but if you would just sort of put that in your bonnets and let it stew for a while, that if we could do a melding of 11 and 15, unless there's some reason to keep them separate. If we discuss and we're dead tired, that's a hard thing to do after a long day.
Okay, it's the only way we can get people to stay till the end.
Oh, that's the reason why.
Kidding.
Something has to be at the end.
I know, but we could do actually our voting at the end, because that's already pretty much a done deal. They've been discussed, introduced. I'm just wondering if there's just a little agenda rearranging. And again, we don't have to decide tonight, but just wanted to bring that up.
I don't know how the format ended up the way it is.
There's no history that you know of?
Not that I'm aware.
Do you know, Elizabeth or Dr.?
I'm sure there's some Robert's Rule of
Order,
but I'm sure it's open to.
I just know.
There's flexibility, I believe, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, where's our student? Irma?
She had to leave.
She had to
Oh,
depart.
my goodness. All right, that leads us to you, Dr. Rourke.
Thank you. Before mine, I will, I'll play the role of a student board member for a moment. Half Moon Bay High School, the talent battle was rescheduled to a date in April. 2 judges are needed, board members. Spring sports are all in motion and have started their seasons. The spring musical Cabaret opening night is March 20th. Elections at the high school will be held soon. New student ASB officials will be appointed at the end of March. For Hatch Elementary School, they've had many exciting things going on. 5th graders had Cunha counselors visit and then visited Cunha themselves. That was going on last week across the district. The Leadership Club had the new Half Moon Bay City Manager visit their Friday meeting and give advice on their community action projects. Parent-teacher conferences are going on this week and are going very well. Students had a Cool the Earth assembly this week, and Oceans Week starts next Monday. Lots of wonderful events are planned. Now for my report, I have 3 items. The first is regarding Common Core, our transition to Common Core. And I just, seeing Mr. Ward's presentation and other presentations we've seen over the last several months, I'm just encouraged by our transition to align instruction to the new standards. Our teachers on special assignment, our TOSAs, have proven very effective in supporting their colleagues. This past week, 2 of our TOSAs, the elementary, provided professional development to our site and district administrative team in the area of math. And we were taught strategies that teachers have been taught and utilizing this year. On my Monday morning visits to classrooms, I see ample evidence of the commitment by our teachers to align their practice to the new standards and mindsets. Students will be shortly involved in the new testing program, given the name, the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. It used to be called STAR, State Teaching and Accountability Reporting, Assessment Reporting.
Standardized testing and reporting.
Yeah. A new name, new practices. Indications from last year's pilot test and results in other states of assessment based on Common Core standards is that students will score lower than they had in the former assessment program. And those results will be consistent across the state and here in Cabrillo. But rather than get discouraged, our results need to be analyzed and deeply understood, so our instructional decisions moving forward are aligned to our results. Regardless of the anticipated results, I'm very proud of the transition being made at Cabrillo by our teachers, principals, and district leaders. I also have a little bit of information to quickly share, and that is that the State Board of Education yesterday approved unanimously to suspend the API, the Academic Performance Index reporting system for the current school year, as the state is in the development of a new multi-measure index. But even though the API is being suspended, results of the first administration of the new tests that will be going on this spring will be reported to the public, to individual parents, and to the district as a whole. And then finally, LCAP progress. We have met with our DLAC on March 2nd, began our first LCAP discussion at the district level. As you know, we've had many, many conversations being held at the site, and those site meetings have ended. And we are meeting again on April 13th with the DLAC members, and they will present their recommendations for our revised plan. We have 2 upcoming meetings next week on March 19th. The first is at 4 o'clock with our employee associations. The second is with our Parent Advisory Council, and that meeting is open to the full community. We'll have a robocall out next week, and we have flyers going home at the end of this week. Both meetings will be held at the Cunha Library. And we will bring our final working draft of the LCAP to the May 14th board for a discussion, and then we'll bring back the document to June 4th for a public hearing, and finally for the board to adopt at the June 18th meeting, along with the 2015-16 budget.
Thank you, Dr. Rourke. All right, that brings us to agenda item number 13, which is the consent items. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent items as presented. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items as presented. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Say no. The vote is 5-0 to approve this motion. I just want to say thank you to all the parents in the donations to the Cabrillo Unified School District. Every month we get a list in the consent agenda item of donations made by parents and community members to the different school sites. It's mind-boggling how generous our community is, thousands of dollars. And I just would like to say thank you to all of our community for doing that. Brings us to item number 14, which is action items. Approve a new textbook adoption for Half Moon Bay High School. Dr. Shuck?
So last month, we brought the textbook that the staff has requested to accompany the new course that you approved previously. The book is The Cultural Landscape, An Introduction to Human Geography, and it's for the AP course that's coming up. It's been on display at the district office for the last 2 months, actually, and it's in the back of the room if anyone were interested in looking at it. So we are asking the board to approve this textbook so we can purchase it for a class for next school year.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
A second?
Second?
Any discussion?
No, I'd just like to reiterate your thanks for the previous donations and the thanks to the high school foundation that will be donating these textbooks.
Purchasing the text, yeah. It's been moved and seconded that the approval for a new textbook adoption at Half Moon Bay High School. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, respond by saying no. Motion carries 5-0. Adopt a resolution number 03-15 endorsing April as Public Schools Month. Dr. Rourke?
Yes, every year the district enjoys the opportunity to acknowledge the important contributions public education makes to our community and the greater society. So it's with great pride again that the district recommends to the governing board that we formally endorse April as Public Schools Month, and the district's commitment is exemplified by our motto, every child, every day.
Thank you. This item is a roll call vote, so is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second?
I'll second.
All right, I'm going to do a roll call. Brad?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Rob? Kate? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Item C is adopt a resolution number 04-15 to approve reducing and/or discontinuing of classified positions. Mr. Corey?
Thank you, President Livingston. Presented to the governing board this evening is Resolution 04-15 that notes the reduction or discontinuation of classified positions per Ed Code 453008. At this point in time, due to unknown funding from our local PTOs and also state general programs, we need to proceed as we do on an annual basis to list positions that are uncertain. It certainly is our hope to bring back all of the positions that are listed within the enclosed resolution. I have met with the CSEA president, Stig Lynn, and reviewed the positions as I do on an annual basis. It is our intention again to bring back the following positions as soon as we receive commitment letters from our local PTOs and also confirm funding for a variety of different programs. As you can see listed within Resolution 04-15, we have a clerical assistant position funded currently by the Fair Lawn View PTA. We have 3 food service positions, custodian 1, food service assistant 1, and also food service assistant 2, which are annually laid off as well due to budget uncertainty. Also listed within the resolution, we have library technicians, both elementary and Cunha library technicians receive funds from local PTOs, and we are awaiting those commitment letters for next year, as we are for the paraprofessional position funded by the Fair Lawn View PTO. Also included in the resolution are 2 school-age child care coordinators up at Kings Mountain. We anticipate receiving that commitment letter from KMAP shortly. And finally, listed within the resolution, we have our lead bus driver and school bus drivers that will be laid off and rehired as soon as we confirm transportation needs for 15-16. So presented to the governing board this evening for approval is Resolution 04-15.
This item is a roll call vote, so is there a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll second.
It has been moved roll call vote. Freya?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Kirk?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Kate? Aye. The vote carries 5-0. Item D, hold public hearing for 2015-16 contract initial proposals as submitted by Cabrillo Unified School District and the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association. Mr. Corey?
Thank you, President Livingston. As we are obligated to do, due to the fact that the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association contract expires on June 30th, 2015, we are required to submit initial proposals to each other before or on March 1st. Included within the board packet this evening are the specific requested openers that will begin shortly in a negotiation format pending board approval this evening. As you can see, listed within the packet, we have a letter from Mr. Putnam, the chief negotiator for CUTA. CUTA is requesting to open Article 2 regarding compensation, Article 4, leaves of absence, Article 21, professional growth, and I apologize, this is the district reopeners, sorry Mike, and also requesting to open side letter C and memo E. So these are the district reopeners as submitted to Mr. Putnam, dated February 27, 2015. The reopeners from CUTA are also enclosed in the board packet. Article 2, compensation. Article 3, health and welfare. Article 4, leaves of absence. Article 6, class size. Article 13, teaching hours. Article 24, duration and reopeners. And finally, Article 25, disciplinary action. So those are the items that, pending a public hearing and board approval, we will begin shortly negotiating for the 15-16 school year with CUTA.
All right. I get to use the gavel. I'm going to open the public hearing. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, I will close the hearing. Love that. All right. And item E, hold the public hearing for the 2014-15 contract reopener as submitted by the California School Employees Association. Mr. Corey?
Thank you again, President Livingston. We have received a reopener request from the California School Employees Association requesting to reopen pursuant to Article 22, Article 6 over salary for the 2014-15 school year. So our procedure is for the governing board to receive this reopener, followed by a public hearing and subsequent permission to begin negotiations with CSEA as early as next week.
All right. I'm going to open the public hearing for CSEA. Does the public have anything to say? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. All right. Item F, approve second interim financial report and budget revision for fiscal year 2014-15. Crystal?
Yes, thank you. Per Education Code 42130 requires school districts to submit the district's financial status twice during the fiscal year to the governing board, which we have done earlier tonight with the second interim report. I am pleased to announce that for the 14-15 second interim that a positive certification is recommended. And the recommendation is to approve the second interim financial report and budget revision for the fiscal year 2014-2015 with a positive certification.
All right. There's a motion to approve.
I motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? It's been moved and second to approve the second interim financial report and budget revision for fiscal year 2014-15. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The vote is 5-0. Moves us to item G, accept actual cost information, Series B bonds. Dr. Rorick? Oh, no, this is Crystal. Sorry.
Persistent to Education Code 15146, after a bond sale, the governing board of a district is required to present the actual cost information for the sale of this of the scale of the current bonds. The district's financial advisory firm, ESUM Advisors, has prepared the attached information that breaks down the fees and costs that were paid as part of the issuance of the recent Series B bond sales. The recommendation is to accept the actual cost information for the sale of the Series B bonds.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second? And a discussion. I have a green sheet from Mr. John Ullum.
Thank you. John Ullum, Half Moon Bay.
Good evening.
Last time I was here, discussed this very bond issue and made some claims that you were jacking the interest rates up that you were offering for these bonds in order to generate a premium, cover these costs, and cover the percentages that you have to set aside for the general agreement that always exists with these kinds of bonds. And pointed out to you that, well, there was quite a bit of discussion as to whether that was even legal, and that the opinion of the Attorney General of the state of California was that it wasn't. And it was also her general opinion and that of many other people that it's just not ethical. So you were given $81 million in bonding authority. Tonight it says here that you got $20 million for the last one. What people don't know by looking at that is actually they got about $21 million. And the way they got the $21 million was to raise the interest rates that they offered to the people who were going to buy the bonds. The way this works is somebody is getting paid such a high interest rates that they're willing to pay up to $125 for $100 of debt. They expect to cover that $25 with interest rates and then make a profit above that. Otherwise, they wouldn't make the investment. Anyway, I sent you all emails, backed up what I said, offered, maybe you could show me I was wrong, and asked a really simple question. How much bonding authority does the district have left from Measure S? Is it 20 million, or was it minus the 20 million you got in B and minus the 18 million that you got in A? Or does that include the extra $2 million or so that you obtained by offering excessively high interest rates? You can't tell anything from this. So I'm hoping that, I know those are rhetorical questions. The board does not answer questions unless the board decides to answer questions. In the past, they have answered questions for me when I've been up here, when it was to the board's advantage. So I'm hoping that you will ask a staff member just that simple question. How much bonding authority is left? Thank you.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded to accept the actual cost information on the Series B bonds. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Please respond with no. Vote is 5-0. Item H, adopt resolution number 05-15 to amend the initial study and mitigated negative declaration and monitoring and reporting program for the Pilarcitos High School campus and the Alvin Hatch Elementary School improvements projects. Dr. Rohrig?
Thank you. On September 18th of 2014, earlier this year, the governing board approved two projects that were combined for the purposes of CEQA filing. These projects include the Pilarcitos new campus and the Hatch Elementary School modernization and new construction. On December 11th, 2014, the governing board approved resolution number 30-14, which approved the initial study and mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for both of those projects. Subsequently, in fact, the very next day, the notice of determination was filed with the Sonoma County agency, and 30 days later, with no challenges being made, the CEQA closed for those particular projects. Since the date, the Pilarcitos project has been updated as we've realized a need for temporary housing for the program. We had hoped to be able to complete the project over the summer and have the new school open for the first day of school, and we now know that's not going to happen. So therefore, we have presented here the governing board an amendment to that initial study and mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program under the Pilarcitos High School project and the Hatch Elementary School improvement projects. Even though there are no additions to the Hatch, it was the projects were combined again under CEQA. So it's the recommendation from staff to approve and adopt resolution 05-15 to amend the initial study and mitigated negative declaration.
This item is a roll call vote. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. Roll call. Freya?
Aye.
Michael? Kirk?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Keith? Aye. Vote carries 5-0. Item I, approve the scope of a resolution agreement with the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disability Act of 1990 concerning Office of Civil Rights case. Dr. Rourke?
Thank you again. This past summer, an anonymous complaint was filed with the Office of Civil Rights concerning ADA access within the football and track area at Half Moon Bay High School. Prior to receipt of the complaint, the district was in discussion with the Department of State Architects to determine the ADA issues in this area as part of the district's plan to replace the current synthetic turf at the high school and install certain track and field elements contained within the scope of the project. Since the complaint was filed, the district has provided all documentation requested by OCR. In addition, the district has stated its commitment to rectify all identified ADA issues. In its response to OCR, the district has requested that DSA assume jurisdiction to determine the necessary ADA issues to address and determine the ultimate solutions to each identified issue. Even though OCR did not relinquish this authority to DSA, but they did consult with the agency on the various issues and proposed resolutions. The resolution agreement identifies one issue not raised by DSA and includes one solution potentially not required by DSA. The Office of Civil Rights identified the current press box as being non-compliant. Rectifying this issue has not previously been included in the project scope. In addition, the American with Disabilities Act ADA requirements included the need for a path of travel around the track oval. At this time, the track is considered the ADA path of travel around the field for non-track and field competitions and to provide access to the visitor side bleachers. The district has proposed to DSA and to OCR to close the visitors bleachers during track and field events, thereby eliminating the need for an accessible path for these events. All other events do not require the use of the track as part of the field of competition, therefore allowing its use as the accessible path of travel. This proposal has orally been agreed to by DSA but rejected by OCR. As an enforcement agency, OCR has told us they cannot unilaterally waive federal law, but can do so under certain conditions. Both DSA and OCR are recognizing that constructing a path of travel around the track oval would create environmental, construction, and physical challenges. Therefore, OCR is requiring the district to conduct a feasibility study for this portion of the project to determine if a new path will be required. All of the requirements contained within the resolution agreement are consistent with DSA requirements and are included in the present scope. The resolution agreement presented to the governing board is still being finalized with regard to the required dates for completion of project milestones. Therefore, the governing board is being asked to approve the scope of the agreement, not the final agreement. OCR does not require the governing board to approve the resolution, as they have allowed me as the representative of the board to do so. But in the interest of greater transparency, staff requests the board review and approve the scope of the resolution agreement with OCR.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion. Mr. Ullum.
You kind of gloss over a little bit of facts as to what prompted the investigation, and I'm not going to go over all of them. But one of the things that prompted the investigation was an email chain. And in that email chain, members of the district concocted a plan to not have to follow ADA rules. That's what it says in the email. I know it's kind of deserves a smile maybe, but that is what it says. And as you can see, somebody took it seriously, prompted an investigation. Now, I know this is the last time this is going to come up for me, that nobody cares about this. Doesn't care that people who were in charge of the district at the highest levels in a span of 3 hours in a chain of about 4 emails, decided that they could avoid complying with the ADA requirements simply by not processing the agreement or the project through the DSA or through CEQA or some such. I could get the email up again. I'm not really sure any of you care about it. It means anything to any of you. But it might run some of you. That email exists. That chain exists. The leaders of your district conspired to avoid having to follow the ADA. And what they decided to do was not submit the project through the proper channels in hopes of making that fly. That's what happened. Good evening.
Thank you. Any other discussion? It has been moved and seconded that to approve the scope of a resolution agreement with the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, and Title II of the American with Disabilities Act. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The vote is carried 5-0. Leads us to item 15, which is the discussion items. Discuss a report on the enrollment status of the elementary schools. Mr. Corey. Can't sneak up on us, John, with those shoes.
No such thing as a quiet entrance. Thank you, President Livingston. This evening, we actually have a follow-up report regarding the enrollment status of the elementary schools. As you will notice in the green sheet that was provided, we have some additional information for the governing board regarding the enrollment status of the CUSD elementary schools. Okay. Well, I can clean the air filter while we're waiting. I don't have a problem with that either. I think specifically in the report presented this evening, there are 5 major bullet points that we are going to share with the governing board. But before I share the data, during this time, I'd like to first and foremost thank Ann Bailey, our Director of Technology, for the work that's involved in gathering the data. Sometimes you think it's as easy as pushing a button and the data comes out. Work behind the scenes. I want to thank Ann publicly for that. And again, Rosabella Costa, my administrative assistant, my team member, for putting together this report this evening, tribute to her growing skills. Also like to thank the board for the data specialist position that was approved this evening. An exciting position, not just for the tech department, but for every department within our district to help us continue not just gather but analyze data. This evening, we're going to share the Hatch immersion enrollment. We're going to share the enrollment by language proficiency within the immersion program. And then we are going to do the exact same analysis and share regarding the English program enrollment, and then also share the language proficiency, and then look at those numbers in a total capacity. So as you can see from the slide, we do have a total within the Hatch immersion 406 students in the bottom right corner, 406 students. And then you can see, if you move to your left in the first column, we have kindergarten. And I'm not going to read through every column, but you can see this is how the data is being presented. We have a total of 95 students in the K immersion program, 58 students. Their home school is Hatch. We have 28 from El Granada, and we also have 9 students coming from Fairlawn within our intra-district enrollment. The immersion programs are not on intra-district. They are actually enrolling directly at Hatch. And you can see how the data continues, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. And you can see in the top portion we have the percentages of breakdown. 57% of the students are homeschool, Hatch, and then you can see the El Granada numbers at 30%, and Farallon View in the 1.3, and the interdistrict at 0. So that's the Hatch immersion program enrollment. And then if you continue the analysis looking at the language proficiency, again, in the far right, we have 406 students. And if you look at the breakdown of the English program, we have 236. And within the limited English proficiency, the fluent English proficiency, we have a total of 170 students. And then you can see the homeschool origin from Hatch. Combined total is 230. El Granada is a combined total of 121, and Farallon View is 53. So that's the information broken down within the immersion program by language proficiency.
Joan, may I ask something? The IDT, the interdistrict transfers, there are 2. If they're not from Farallon homeschool, where are they from?
They're from out of the district.
Out of the district.
And they are inter-district. And those students are students that at one point in time lived within the district, started the program, and then moved out, and their inter-district was approved to continue within the program. Okay. So that is the inter-district coming from outside. And then this is just a slide breaking down the enrollment within the immersion program by grade level. Just a bit of additional data and information presented to you in this format. We looked at entire grade levels, but you can see the numbers presented to your left for the English only, for Hatch, El Granada, Farallon View, by grade level, and we also compiled the same data for the limited fluent English proficient students on the right side, and the numbers were reported accordingly. And then moving on, in a very similar comparison model, we have the Hatch English program enrollment. You can see in the bottom right number, we have 249 students currently enrolled in the English program at Hatch. We have 219 homeschool is Hatch. We have 23 El Granada, 6 Farallon View, and 1 inter-district transfer. And then you can see accordingly the breakdown as well, EK all the way through our 5th grade, and the percentages are up in the top right corner, noting 88% homeschool is Hatch, and you can see the following percentages: 9 reported from El Granada, 3 from Farallon View. That's the English program at Hatch. And then also doing the same analysis, we have the language proficiency for the English program at Hatch. We have 249 total students. Homeschool reported 219. Homeschool from El Granada is 23. Farallon View is 6. And then you can see the graph to the right as well, just giving you a further comparison of the language proficiency within the program. And again, this is an additional bit of information regarding the English program. Enrollment language comparison by grade level, the English only on the left and the limited fluent English proficient on the right. And then finally, we have a total enrollment. We have both the immersion and the English programs. You can see in the bottom right, we have a total of 655 students at Hatch Elementary School. The homeschool, based on total numbers, 449 students. We have students from El Granada, 144 students are attending Hatch. Their homeschool is El Granada. And you can see again, Farallon View, we have 59 total students attending Hatch that their homeschool is Farallon View. And we have a total of 3 inter-district transfers. And the chart, the pie chart at the top right, reflects that in percentages. 68% of the students at Hatch are at their homeschool. 22% are coming from El Granada, and we have the following percentages for Farallon transfers as well. So that's a total numeric and percentage reflection of the enrollment at Hatch. We were also asked to look into some boundary information, And it's always interesting when people mention the archives. And we were wondering who would be so brave to go out into the archive to potentially retrieve some of the historical information regarding the boundaries. So thank you to Patty, and also again, thank you to Rosie for venturing out and doing research to pull up this information. And we're going to share with you our current enrollment boundaries and some of the history that we may literally have been able to dig up. First and foremost, we have the boundaries for the Cabrillo Unified School District. It's kind of neat when you see it on a chart, and I continually remind people over the hill that we are one of the largest geographical districts in the county. And you can see from the chart where we're laying out that information regarding the boundaries of the Cabrillo Unified School District. And then very quickly, we're going to run through the school boundaries, the Farallon View boundaries, as highlighted in blue, covering all the way north to Montera, Moss Beach, and accordingly through the bullets that really highlight the individual neighborhoods. I've learned a lot about the neighborhoods and the streets going through this report. Those boundaries for Farallon View are listed inclusively within this slide. We also have the El Granada boundaries that are highlighted in purple. You can see the west side of the highway is noted accordingly. The east side of the highway, Highway 92, which is always interesting to a lot of people to know that that's actually part of the El Granada boundary as well, and also including the east side of the highway as well. So this is the El Granada attendance areas as noted in purple. And then moving on to Hatch, we have Hatch highlighted in yellow. And you can see, as noted on the first bullet, the west side of the highway, Venice Boulevard, all the way through San Gregorio, as well east side of the highway as well, noting the Hatch boundaries. And Kings Mountain, not to be forgotten, a large space as well up on the mountain, and specifically including the west side of Highway 35 that is highlighted in green. We looked for the history of the boundaries, and we're able to find actually 2 years. The first year was 1991 during a boundary realignment, and you can see what the proposal was with regards to the incorporation into the El Granada school areas, 2 identified areas. The reasons for the realignment were listed, creating more equal balance, the student population of the coastside elementary schools, and also to provide quality educational programs for all students. Those were the listed reasons in 1991 for those boundary realignments. And then also moving per our data research, 2004 boundary realignments. The proposal included 5 specific reasons behind the proposal that are listed accordingly. And the 3 primary reasons for the realignment are also listed on the slide as well. Specifically, ensuring a realistic equity of enrollment between the schools, maximizing the implementation and refinement of quality programs, and also ensuring a balance within the district were the 3 reasons listed for the realignment. So a lot of information, a lot of data, numbers, percentages, and also some information provided regarding boundaries. So at this point, I don't know if there's any questions or follow-up comments that would like to be asked or made.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. It's very interesting. Appreciate it.
I have a question. Where's Dr. Rourke?
Oh,
Here we are.
Trying to get his turn off.
So I continue to be concerned about the enrollment at Hatch at 600 plus students. We're very unbalanced in our elementary schools. And I can only imagine what the impact of all those students at Hatch is, not just crowded rooms, but 3 or 4 lunch schedules. And Mr. Ward, you can pop 4, 3? And playtime, recess, it must go on all day. I don't know, but anyway, I'd still have very serious concerns about the enrollment at Hatch. What can be done?
Well, you know, as you can see from from Mr. Corey's presentation, that the district has grappled with the enrollment on the coast side over the years and has at times changed the boundaries to even out enrollment for a variety of reasons, whether it's just total number of students or populations of students, to have a better balance among the schools. So certainly realignment is a strategy that could be taken to draw kids out of Hatch and to other schools. However, quite honestly, Hatch is as large as it is because it houses the immersion program. There are approximately 660, 665 students currently at Hatch, and about 250 of those are in the traditional program, so a little over 400 are immersion students, and as we just learned from that, only roughly, 70%, a little under 70% are Hatch kids. So a lot of those kids, there's a significant number there who come from other neighborhood schools. The point I'm making here is that the presence of the Hatch program and the growing interest in immersion and the additional kindergarten classrooms that have been allocated over the previous 2 years are putting Hatch on a trajectory to grow even larger. When we bring 96 kids up into the immersion program, coupled with 2 kindergartens for next year in the traditional program, that's a large number of kids to build off of. I mean, just the immersion program alone at 96 kids per grade level, track that out through 5th grade, and that's 600 kids. And if you add the 250 English-only traditional program kids on top of that, you're looking at a school that's larger than Cunha, significantly larger than Cunha. And that's really not sustainable, and we're modernizing and building new buildings at Hatch beginning this summer, and we're not designing this school for 850 students. So certainly that is probably the greatest leverage point, is to look critically at the immersion impact at Hatch. And there are ways to mitigate that. I mean, from having a contained immersion number to having an immersion-only school, which in this community would be difficult, because if you live right across the street from a school and that's your neighborhood school, it's hard to tell that student who family doesn't want to be in immersion, wants a different model, that you have to go down there. And so that would be a difficult decision to make as well. The board and the district can also consider looking differently. I mean, if the district via the governing board makes a decision that the immersion program is to be supported at the level that the community desires, then a different way of housing those students needs to be looked at. And is that having immersion programs at different schools? Is that having a component of the immersion program housed at a different school? E.g., example, a 4th, 5th component. Hatch houses the primary component, K-3, and another school houses the 4th and 5th grade. I'm not sure. I'm not proposing anything tonight, and I'm not asking the board to adopt anything tonight. There is no recommendation here other than to acknowledge that Hatch is growing at an unsustainable rate, and that the district, via the governing board, really needs to think critically about this. And as I said before, the impact is, quite honestly, for all its popularity, and this is not a knock on the program, this is not a knock on the community for desiring the program, the facts are the facts, and that school cannot sustain 2 programs where one of them is 600 kids.
Tony, can you remind us with the reconstruction of Hatch, what the target number of students as it's being designed is? I just can't recall that right now.
About 575 is ideal, and that would leave, some classrooms still available for ancillary programs like HEAL and science room and an art room, et cetera. Right now, Hatch really has none of those.
Zero room.
They're all used. I mean, we had to bring a portable for the Los Listos program, just because that didn't even exist anymore.
And that used to be housed here.
That used to be housed right here. Right there.
Dr. Warwick, I agree with you. I think this is something that we need as a board to take a look at, and very soon, for multiple reasons. And I'm curious, in terms of just facility-wise, do we have the space in other locations or other school sites where we could move some of these programs to right away on these grade levels?
Well, the short answer is yes, but that would be complicated as well. There are both El Granada and Farallon View are schools that aren't at their maximum, even though certainly every room is being used, because when you have space, you use it. It might not. I mean, if that's a direction that the board wants to explore, I would be uncomfortable giving a definitive answer tonight without bringing more information about exactly how our other schools are using the space that they have. But all of our schools are similarly sized, and El Granada has just under 500 kids, and Farallon View has about 350 students. So that's,
So are there implications for the immersion program if it was to be split? I mean, are there models where they're at different locations? I don't really understand, whether that would have. And is this something that the task force has thought about looking at or is planning on looking at in terms of facilities? And I know that their recommendations last year, one of them was to explore a K-8 model at some point. Is that something that's been at all in discussion?
That hasn't been discussed in the task force. It's been focused on the middle school and the bridge. That was discussed.
And I would be extremely hesitant to support a K-8 model of immersion, only because if immersion were to grow at its current level, you would be having roughly 300 of the kids at Cunha, basically 100 kids coming out every year would be immersion kids. And so Cunha is, about 750 students. And if you took 300 students out of there to be part of this, large K-8 site, Cunha would be a very different school.
But yet it was included in this recommendation, so that
Right.
wasn't with your support or approval, that recommendation to
I think that recommendation came, in fact, I know that recommendation came at the desire of one or two people just to have it put on the table as something it was deliberately stated to explore as opposed to recommend that we go there. And I don't know of anyone on that study group who really holds that interest as a model.
I guess for me, it's helpful to look at what things do we really truly need to explore, and if there's certain things that are off the table, they shouldn't even be in that recommendation. I mean, I've gotten emails from people saying, let's implement it at Cunha, and in a couple of years we'll explore a K-8. I don't want to see a program continually in flux and up, and I don't know what kind of impact some of these changes would have on a program. If you had K-3 at one school, 4 or 5 at another, is that something that any schools have ever done before?
There have been K-3 schools and 4 or 5 schools. I mean, they exist. primary schools and intermediate schools?
Sure, there are communities that do that.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and for certain reasons, it makes some sense. I mean, if you had 2 elementary schools in your district and you made one of them a primary school and one of them an upper grade school, you would have the benefit of having all of your kindergarten teachers or all of your 5th grade teachers at the same site, and you could have the luxury of having better articulation and consistency of program at that particular grade level. You know, I
But you're
don't
talking about
pretend to
different
have all the
programs at the
answers.
same school.
What's that?
You're talking about different programs at the same school.
Yes, this is different. That's what I was going to say. I don't pretend to have the answers tonight for this. Would need additional conversation and study. I'm just, you know, being asked to uncover, you know, why it is that Hatch is so long and really what the leverage points are to do something about it.
One of the things that stood out early as a challenge by having Hatch as the immersion school versus having immersion on all the campuses was the flight from communities by very active and involved parents to one singular location, which depletes that homeschool, if you will, from that parental involvement. And this, if we were to move in a direction where, like you spoke to just a moment ago, that could be a way to not have that happen, where you have parents actually involved in multiple schools over the course of their child's tenure, equally invested in each one during that time.
We are truly a unique district in that we are a small community. We have 4 elementaries, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. All those 4 elementaries funnel into one school, and then they're there for 3 years, and then they go on to the high school. So that really makes us a community. It also concerns me that Hatch is going to go, next year, will experience renovation and temporary housing. Is there something that we could do to even alleviate that and try some relocation? It's a discussion item, just sort of throwing it out there. Could we relocate for a school year 2 grade levels from Hatch? 3 grade levels from Hatch? I don't know. Give it a try. Think outside the box. I heard a lot of that tonight. Think outside the box.
Well, certainly, you know, there would be challenges with that as well.
I'm sure.
You know, would we, if we were to temporarily relocate a grade level, 2 grade levels, whatever, to another school site, how do those kids get there? Do we then take on the transportation responsibilities for that? That would be expensive. You know, classroom availability. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense to rent. I mean, to put temporary buildings somewhere else to house them, there would have to be the capacity of the school to do that, which there could be.
Well, aren't we going to rent temporaries at Hatch with Measure S monies?
We are.
If you're going to rent them anyway, then why not leave them at Hatch?
Well, because there's 650 kids and there's going to be construction. I'm thinking about safety. I'm thinking about lunchtime. I'm thinking about recesses. Would just be a temporary solution.
Well, I mean, that's not a strategy in my mind to temporarily move folks with the intent of moving them back. We get really
if I may, I don't think the parents that were here tonight would consider their children temporary, not to say that's what you mean, but to say
Certainly
that
not.
This is when their children, this is their K time, this is their 1st grade, this is their 2nd grade, so it's important that their child enter into that program at all possible. This is a critical time, so even if it was temporary, it would be a step forward in that regard, and it would allow their children to be in that program, not sidestepped by the fact that we're going through a remodel and a renovation and a rebuild. And unfortunately, this isn't the time for their child to be in the program.
What about just available space on the other two campuses? Don't we just create overcrowding somewhere else by doing this?
Well, depending on the numbers that you're
It's
transferring.
called sharing the wealth, Kirk.
Okay, it's called moving the problem.
How should we proceed really to dive in on this and really, as a board, I mean, obviously we can't tonight solve this, although I feel like it's something that we as a board really would like to talk more about and take all the information we've had so far. I'm speaking for myself. I certainly would like to take all the information that's been presented and all the good hard work that people have done and come to a conclusion, a step forward that we could bring to the community with the realities that we're faced with.
Well, I would see the next step is for myself and Mr. Corey to meet with our board president very shortly and develop a number of strategies and scenarios to work up and what would be the result of moving in that particular direction under that scenario, and bring that back for additional discussion at the April board meeting. And then if there's an action, a scenario that resonates with the governing board, depending on what that is, the board can give direction to staff to proceed that way or bring it back in May for action.
Is there an opportunity for staff to weigh in on this?
This evening?
No.
Oh, yes.
Where are they? No.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I mean, you know, many heads can be very clever, and I heard again tonight, think outside the box. So maybe staff can come up with some unique suggestions as well. So I'd like to open it up to them.
Absolutely.
You know, they're all affected,
Mm-hmm.
will be affected.
I'd just like to encourage us to include early on parents at the different schools for both those that would be relocated and those that would have a new impact. I think it's useful to explore permanent options when you go through a full public process and you really debate what you're going to do. It's harder when you do something really temporary and you don't really understand the impacts of it, and it can cause havoc and consequences and repercussions that we might not even know about if we don't take the time to explore it
Right.
properly.
I couldn't agree with you
Something
more.
that I've been really, my main thing with even the immersion program is figuring out what's its capacity, what's its goal, how is it implemented to get biliteracy at CUNA, that these things sometimes take time to figure out what the best strategies are to go forward, and I truly believe you then end up with a stronger district, all the programs being stronger, and hopefully then something that can be set for a while versus, especially with all this remodeling that we're doing. Maybe this could be the beginning of the process, even if it doesn't end up in a temporary something for now, it could fuel a process that could allow us to look at more permanent solutions, but in a wider way. I think we need to make sure that we're including all the voices.
Well, in the longer term view, but already happening, and some of it was in the recent parent survey, is if we make the other schools, and I'm just going to use the word magnet for the sake of this conversation, one is STEM and maybe one's arts or whatever it may be, is that going to draw parents? Some may have a preference versus immersion to do that, and then do we distribute students in that manner? Because it's all focused on the immersion, but we've been having this conversation for a couple of years about the different schools, and there will be a drop off in that if we execute on it, and what impact is that going to have on the distribution?
Well, and that data, it's just a few data points, but it does show that, and those were immersion parents who were surveyed, that a third of them would stay with immersion and 2/3 would go to another program if those other two programs are available.
I was pleased to see music and art.
Yeah. Performing arts.
The performing arts.
But and that would certainly reduce the size of the immersion program, would it not? And so it's interesting piece of data.
And important in this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because that may be a mitigating strategy to this whole issue, right?
If that survey went
May not be,
large to the whole population, which it probably should, that would be an interesting piece of input because it may change the whole map here. And, of course, we should have done this before we started planning how we're going to revitalize or renovate the campuses, right?
Hindsight is always so 20/20, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, to your credit, Kirk, I remember you had this conversation too. About looking forward, I do, yes.
So just for my understanding, is the request for us to develop scenarios specifically for next year in the short term, or for a more long-term possibilities and scenarios to alleviate the impact of the immersion program at Hatch?
I think yes.
To both.
I think we got to dig in, and we've got to come up with what we can do physically, what we can do short term, and also moving forward. As we all would, I'm sure, agree, at long-term strategic planning, ensuring that we can sustain funding and support, and that we think through all the different options that are there and the good work that's been done by others. I think the time's now to do that, to get going.
Very good, thank you.
So is that okay?
That's very clear.
Yeah, just kind of the what ifs and what other ways are there to solve the problem.
Is there a timeline here, do you think?
Yes.
We need to make a decision by June?
Sooner.
Yes.
Sooner?
I mean, my proposal is that it's returns, these various scenarios return at the April 23rd board meeting to be presented and discussed. Board then discuss those and give staff direction so that we can start acting on those. And if there's a need for a formal action, then it could take place in May. But in the meantime, we have direction to start moving in this way and mobilizing in this way.
So, just a point of clarification, on the Hatch campus, when the renovation begins, so a third of the campus will be basically fenced in a construction area. Will there be playground built out onto the turf? That's a temporary measure to make sure the kids do still have a playground. And where will the portables sit? Maybe you should clarify to us what that's going to look like when construction's going, and where will the kids play? Where the other building's going to be, so we can think about that, because that's a real impact coming.
Well, it will be tight. There will be some additional asphalt area, and the temporary housing is essentially beyond the D-wing. We're going to lay down some asphalt there.
Over the existing turf.
Over the existing turf, and that will be permanent. And when the temporary housing goes away, a portion of that will become where the new kindergarten is, but the majority of it will remain as additional playground space for the new school.
You're talking the asphalt will remain, not the...
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
The portables will go away and the asphalt.
Yeah, I was confused there, because it's 9:40.
That would be interesting information, because if we're looking at a temporary change and impacts on other schools, to look at what the real, like you're saying, it could be horrible, but it also maybe is manageable, so it'd be good to have that information.
There's not a lot of extra space at the other campuses, though, right?
I think that's something we have to look at, right?
At Fairlawn?
Because the capacity has to be looked at, and then I just think there are going to be other impacts. You're going to have transportation impacts. You're going to have expectation impacts. I think you have to look at what the other costs are.
Something I did hear from the community this evening is that they were open to working with us on some of these challenges. And so some of that, the transportation, that might be one of those things where the reality of that, we would need that type of support.
Well, if we just looked at let's just say the 4th and 5th grade, and if we were to, there are projected to be seven 4th and 5th grade classes here at Hatch next year, 3 in the traditional program and 4 in the immersion programs. That's correct, Mr. Corey? Is my memory correct? I believe so. And that is how many students is that? 7 times basically 30? 240 kids? 250, yes. Divide by 82, how many buses is that to transport those kids? We have 4 buses, and 3 of them are actively used. If we're going to go in the business of doing that, and we're going to take responsibility for transporting those kids, we're going to have to buy buses.
Maybe we could get some really good carpools going.
Like that.
Well, that's.
I mean, it's
There's the new bike path.
And this will all be included.
I'm being flip, I'm
Right.
sorry, but it's just.
Can we use
This will
Uber?
all be included in the scenarios.
Just thinking outside.
What are the outcomes?
What'd you want to say?
I said, could we use Uber?
Uber?
No, but really, I mean, I'm going to reiterate it just because as we talk about all of this, especially as we talk about the thought of moving that many students elsewhere, that's untenable in my view, but that's not for them, that's for the board to decide, that's my view. But the issue of what the schools are going to be, what the elementary schools will be, can solve this problem of distributing the kids differently. And I really think that, frankly, should be the focus of this discussion, because one of the key focuses, because if we aren't going to pursue that strategy as a path to redistributing them, then this problem will become, is what it is today, right? And it really comes down to the issue, we'll have to limit the number of students on Hatch site. I mean, that's really, frankly, the only practical option if there's not a strategy around specializing at the schools to move the kids.
Well, maybe that's included then in the next discussion item, because that's not technically what we're discussing right now.
I understand
And so
that.
maybe we get a report on how environmental science and STEM is developing at the other sites, how that would look. I mean, they'd be different programs than the immersion program because they would encompass the whole school. What kind of impact would you have? Are there still neighborhood schools? Are they magnets or not? I mean, all those questions would have to be looked into and answered, and I think in relation to the size and the structure and how students are distributed, that definitely does play a factor. But we don't have all that information in front of us tonight, so maybe that's also a part of it. Just giving you guys a few more things to do before the next board meeting.
It could be that STEM becomes the new magnet program of popularity, and that becomes,
The new problem.
the new problem,
The new
yeah. I
overcrowding.
mean, it's a nice problem to have, but still, I mean, yeah.
Well, it seems very unlikely you would flip a switch and you'd have the exact same problem in another school.
Right.
Clearly,
I
there's a
know.
high level of pop. Okay, so I'm just trying to be practical about the conversations.
There's the data.
And there's data, right?
And we'll also be having a recommendation from the task force at our next meeting, or at some point, I don't know exactly.
From the immersion study?
Yeah.
Coming up. So that's good.
Perhaps.
All right, that does that discussion. Anything else? I thought that was a good conversation.
Okay.
What?
To extend the meeting past 10.
Oh, yes, I have to do that.
15 minutes.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you. Discussion item B, discuss the Cunha bus route pilot and potential for continuing the route in 2015-16. Crystal?
Yes. Last spring, the governing board approved a pilot bus route serving Cunha students living in Montera, Moss Beach, Pillar Ridge, Miramar, and El Granada communities. Riders paid for the opportunity to use this service, and the route was only provided in the morning. The route was established for the fall semester with an understanding that the board would consider continuing the route through the remainder of the year prior to winter break. In December, the governing board gave direction to staff to continue the route for the rest of the school year, despite ridership levels well below the district's recovering all cost for the route. This was done because the district believed there was a good chance the route would receive 2-year bridge funding under the San Mateo County Measure A grant program. However, the grant application was not funded. At its peak, the Cunha route served 19 students. Currently, only 14 riders now use this bus. Through the Measure A grant, the bridge funds were not successful. Supervisor Don Horsley has stated he believes funding to support the pilot route may be available through Connect the Coastside planning effort, which Dr. Rorick is a part of. However, funds through this program would not be available until our school year of 16-17. The Transportation Committee proposes the district conduct extensive outreach this spring to promote the route for 15-16, and that the governing board approve the continuance of the route for another year based on the board's determination of a minimum number of committed riders. This will provide an opportunity to keep the route while awaiting county funding until the route is self-funding. Continuance of the route in 15-16 has yet to determine financial impact on the general fund. This allows us to discuss the Cunha bus pilot and potential for continuing the route in 15-16.
Any comments?
I know a lot of folks worked hard to put together that strategy, and this experiment. I just wanted to say I appreciated that. I know a lot of parents, community members were hoping we would succeed in that endeavor.
Well, I think the question, and I unfortunately wasn't at the last transportation subcommittee for other reasons, but I think the question is whether or not we could recruit enough current fifth graders to bring the numbers up to a more pilot program, to just keep it going for one more year, so you get one more year of recruiting fifth graders, so you end up with the 3 years with close to the capacity to fully fund. Whether or not that's something the board is interested in, also given that there might be some county money coming in the following year, because as Tony has explained before, one of the Connect the Coast Sides transportation solutions is funding school transportation, and that's kind of their minimal requirement under that. So I think that's kind of the issue.
Do we know have the parents, the fifth grade parents, been surveyed?
Not yet, because we're waiting to see whether or not there's anything to offer them. So what we're hoping to establish here is some kind of goal, say if we could establish 40, including the fifth and the current sixth grade, the ones that are already there, would the board be interested in supporting? You can't really go out and promote a program and try and get signups for it unless there is a program.
Right. So
I think that's kind of the issue, is at what point would we need to have full ridership by the spring, in which case we probably wouldn't get that. It might not be worth the recruitment effort. Could we have partial ridership, and if so, what number? I think do I summarize kind of the recommendation from the task force?
Yes, that's accurate, yes.
We need 60 riders to make the program self-sustaining, right?
Right, and I don't think we'd get 60 from this current crop of fifth grade.
And there are currently 14 riders on this bus.
So they've gone down.
They've gone down. It started out at 18, Crystal?
Actually, at the first semester, we had a total of 24 riders signed up. 15 of those riders were paid, and 9 riders were free and reduced, bringing in a revenue of $1,896, so just shy of $1,900. For the second semester, we had 16 signed up. 8 riders were fully paid, and 8 riders were free. The revenue brought in there was $1,264. But the actual riders is actually only 14, so there's 2 that haven't asked for refunds, but they're just not riding. The total cost of the trial program for this year is $30,227. The revenue we brought in was $3,160. So the cost to the district for this trial program for this year is $27,067. The cost for a 15-16 trial program is $46,080 estimated.
Say that again?
$46,080.
$46,080.
The previous was what?
The previous total cost was $30,227. We got a little bit of a discount this year because of our ability to use in-house bus driver for the trial. We would not be able to move forward with that same option, so we would have to hire an additional bus driver.
So what's the projection then? I mean, I think could we have all the numbers and think about what is this costing if the ridership remains low? So what would the experiment of keeping it on for another year cost us?
So say we had 40 riders, what would that?
So if we had, so this to me, like I was thinking about this and I was talking to Dr. Rourke, I think it's really like a 2-part. It's a minimum ridership and then how much the board is willing to subsidize the program.
Right.
Because obviously we can't charge $1,200 for ridership.
May I ask this, in light of the horrific, I think is a fair word, traffic on the coast in the morning these days, intuitively it would seem like it's a natural, but clearly it's not.
We thought that.
Yeah, right, and of course, that's what are the primary one or two hurdles the committee thinks are stopping people
After school?
from riding the bus?
Well, no, there's no after-school option right now. But I think the primary thing is once you've established a pattern of doing something, you continue to do that. So if you have a carpool already established or you're taking Samtrans, those kids in the 7th and 8th grade have continued to do that.
So capturing and communicating to the 5th graders now before a pattern's established is to your point.
Well, I think the only way of fully filling the bus is to take 3 years to do it, where each year you're recruiting and you're creating some consistency. But that's a lot of money for the district to absorb. And so unless there's other subsidies or other assistance for it, it's harder to justify. But I do think that's probably the only way you would fully fill those 60 seats.
Yeah, and one of the things that we found was, not surprisingly, I guess, but what kids want is listened to in families, and kids wanted, their friends are taking Samtrans, the kids who are already established, the 7th and 8th graders, they don't want to change that. If their friends, it would take one to do it, and then maybe others would follow, but that one never stepped forward. So we had primarily, I think we had one 7th grader, and the rest were 6th graders. We did have a late start in the recruitment, so we probably didn't capture every 5th grader who we might have if we had started in April last year. But we did extensive outreach, had free weeks, free days, bring your friend on the bus days, and to no avail. I mean, we got 0 riders when we said it's free for a week. We had one friend join somebody on bring your own friend days.
Right, and again, I think that speaks to once you've created a pattern of what
Yeah,
you do, even if it's
exactly.
only a couple weeks or a month, that's
Exactly.
the pattern you do. Everybody likes a routine and knowing how they're going to get to and from school. And,
Yeah, so exactly. So that's what the point I make. So
Yeah.
it was too late in the fall to try to bring more in. We learned that very clearly. It would have to have extensive outreach this spring, get the commitments, and obviously with a firm number in mind. You get there or you don't, and just the number, as Crystal doesn't guarantee a certain revenue amount, because there are kids we have to offer for free and reduced.
Yeah, but at least, and that is true, but it would, it feels like you're doing something good, at least if you have the bus full or,
Sure.
coming back here. The riders that are riding this year, after, they love the program. They will be returning if we were offering it. We have started to get some inquiries. We've had 2 that have asked to be put on a list and be notified. They knew that this was coming to the board as a discussion item tonight, and have asked for us to get back to them. So, we've heard, even within the Transportation Committee, that this could be something that is very popular among the 5th graders, but we just don't really know yet.
I'm just going to interrupt. We need to move to extend beyond 10 o'clock. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? It's been moved and second to go beyond 10 o'clock for this meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It carries, Patty, 5-0.
Are you opposed?
Back on the transportation.
Yes, back to transportation.
Generally, I would just say, in my view, I'd like us to evaluate doing it again for another year with all that was shared about the communication, and I think Freya's point about hitting another population, and the potential for grants or funding, safe for paths and so forth. I think in light of, again, transportation on the coast, it's kind of our duty to give that another run, in my view.
I think it's helpful, if we want to do it in the long term, I think it's helpful to continue for at least one more year to try and make it happen, because I think if we stop the program now, and then in 2 years we say, we've got some funding, we should do this, the confidence in the program continuing is going to be less. I feel like if it's something we really want to do, it might be worth it to take that risk or that financial hit for a little bit. I do still think there's maybe we should keep badgering the county to see if there's any money for this year. I mean, John Corey's comment that our district is one of the larger of all of San Mateo County, and the reason why we weren't put on the Measure A funding list was because we're a school district, and the transportation in this school district is particularly unique in relation to the school districts in the other part of the county. So.
Do we have a decent path to re-engage the county? How would we do that?
Well, Tony's exploring it through the Connect the Coast side, and I think we need another meeting with Don as well to follow, Don and Nick to follow up on that with them. So.
But I think part of the discussion for us ought to be looking towards full busing, full transportation again, to restoring it fully if we can, and maybe that being if it is more comprehensive, that's a scaling up that might make it more feasible to attract county, state, federal, who knows, funds. But it's part of the equation of the magnet campuses and things like that, that maybe comprehensive busing program is something that we should set as a goal for the future and just work towards that, so that these conversations, we're largely duplicating what Samtrans is doing, but they don't quite go close enough for parents to be comfortable having their kids dropped off at this point or another. We're close, and it seems like if we could work with Samtrans to leverage their high capabilities and argue that because this district is spread out over the coast, maybe that would get some traction if we keep it up.
I saw Mountain View, they worked with our high school district and actually rerouted and did changes for times during peak times with that district there.
Well, Samtrans has already done that. That's
I think they've done some.
It's just, issue of what age and at what point do you want your kids to be on a public transportation that can't be limited to only students, and how do you...
Oh, that's right.
That was kind of the main issue.
I personally feel as parents were coming out tonight to support a program, I'd like to see them do the same for transportation. And why they weren't putting kids on a bus to come to Cunha every morning just boggled me. I couldn't understand why. And yes, there is that once patterns are set, they're hard to break. But given the community snarl every morning, they didn't put them on the bus to Cunha. We're having a bus with all those empty seats. So parents have got to get behind it as well. They've got to be willing to change those habits.
Yeah, but we did also, the recruitment was, graduation day.
Yes, but
late.
since then, Joy has done, I think Martha at El Granada has pursued it, and it's just, it needs to be, I want to see a room filled with parents who say, get my kid on the bus.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So what would the board like to, indicate to staff in terms of the amount? If we do want them to continue to recruit, do we just want to see what they recruit or find a number?
I would agree to keeping it going for another year to see if we can boost it and try. With all those arguments about there's a new set of kids.
Start communicating that.
So not even
early
a caveat of if we don't get 40 total, we're going to pull it.
No,
I mean, it's easier to recruit for something you know for sure you're going to do than to recruit for something you might do or you might not.
Well, we have to look at it as this is something we think is important, and if we agree to that value, then sell it as that.
I'm supportive of that.
Yeah.
Would it be, in the board's opinion, that we would advertise this as a full year program instead of a first semester or second semester like we did this year?
You mean as far as a subscription?
Yes.
Yeah,
for next
I think
year.
we should.
A real program, full-scale program.
Yeah, that's part of it is, you got to walk the walk. So if you want this to happen, you have to commit for a year. And I'm not sure how you work that out except ask them.
One of the things the Transportation Committee members found out was the return route, and correct me, Freya, if I'm wrong here, Dr. Rourke, the return route was not as desirable as the morning route because of after-school sports, after-school tutoring, they went to a babysitter maybe or a daycare. So it was really Crystal, is that a
Yes,
one-way route?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, and I think too, when we have I was thinking the other day and really going through my notes from the committee, and, we have so many parents that are interested in, transportation that have younger kids that are coming up. But it's also important to remember how involved our students are. Going to school now is so different. Everyone has all these extracurricular activities. You have tutoring in the morning, tutoring in the afternoon, and so, I would really like to see how many of the students we're not getting because of that.
Sure.
But then I think, well, the Sam's Trans buses are full. They are full. You see them. They are full. So do we not have more kids out of the cars than on additional buses because we don't have enough Sam's Trans buses? And so in that theory, we should be able to fill our buses. So, but the buzzword around town, I do believe, is that the fifth graders want to ride. I mean, next year would be a good year to try that and to really make that decision. I mean, financially at least. But it's definitely a big commitment on the board and the district's side financially.
And, this issue of after-school programs and community schooling theme that's kind of lost some of its push over the years because of funding, I think, ought to be factored in. If it means that maybe transportation doesn't mean that as soon as school ends, everybody's going to get on the bus because of all these extracurricular activities, and then if it's a matter of there's a place for everybody to go for another hour or two, and then if you wait till closer to 4 p.m., you're catching, 95% of the kids that could use the transportation, then that's something we need to think about as part of our planning, because it's a reality, right?
Yes. We could probably, just on a quick note too, we could probably sustain this if the program did take off. I think it's very important to know that we do have aging buses, and we will be addressing those, that situation soon as it is. But yes, we can measure us, and then we also do qualify for some grants for new buses in a couple more years too. So if we could just make it work for a couple of years, we'll,
Do they have hybrid buses yet?
Yes, they do. And they are pretty. So there's definitely moves in that direction.
We can plug it into our solar panels.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it is a big factor, because this issue couldn't be solved by taking smaller buses, because a large part of the cost is the driver, in fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's definitely the largest cost.
All right.
Is that enough information?
So just to clarify, we want to proceed with next year, full year, no minimum ridership.
Yes, we have to have a minimum ridership.
right, I mean,
We have to.
a cut loose point, but
What if there were 2 kids that rode? I mean, worst case scenario.
So I think that, although I would love 40, in November, when I gave the transportation, I think conservatively, just so that we can deal with some fairly real numbers, if we were to get 25 paid riders at $284 a rider, that would generate about $7,100. So then the cost of the district is about $39,000. So that's definitely less than the 46.
Is that similar to what Sam Trans is charging? Remember, that was a big issue. If we're not competitive with Sam Trans,
Sure.
they'll ride Sam Trans.
It's
well, we need to ask Samtrans if we can.
It is
buy
comparable.
Subsidize
It is
that.
comparable, but we've really kind of
somehow.
the parents that are currently riding, that doesn't seem to be an issue, and I think that was an issue for a little bit, but we did adjust the price a little bit, and I think that the drive, the desire to just ride on a school bus by those parents was more important than the $1.50. I think they may be a quarter higher than us, if that.
Not if they buy the tokens. I think the tokens are $1 a day.
Yeah, we sell the tokens out of business services, and we do sell a lot. But we sell them also to, you can buy them, anybody can buy them.
Sure.
So it's hard to know if they're really students.
Who's been going to transportation?
Freya and I.
So what did Samtrans tell you about how many routes they run empty? I mean, there's a couple buses that are packed to the gills, right? And then there's a lot that run empty.
They run 2 buses right around the time of Cunha getting out in the afternoon, for example. And then they go in 2 directions because they go to Moonridge
Right.
and then they also go north on the coast. And they're very full. I mean,
Right.
they're standing room. People are, which they shouldn't be, standing
Sitting in unsafe positions.
Yeah, sitting
Sure.
by the window in front and stuff. I think the buses in the morning are not quite as full because people take different buses.
Yeah.
At Cunha, it's one let-out time, so.
Yeah.
Well, if we could get, so 25 is conservative, but looking at the numbers, if we have 14 now, if we could carry over 20 with just a couple new starters, if we could at least get 10 new 5th graders, I just find it hard to believe that we couldn't get 10 5th graders, but, you know, we were so positive about starting this and thinking it would fly too, that would give us 30 riders.
So should we make 30 the minimum, or do we want a higher number, or?
Well, let's start with 30 and
Cross our
go through
fingers.
this, reiterate, let's look at how it's going to come out. But if we're going to do it, we need to set a threshold and let's say 30.
Okay, so the threshold will be 30, and then the cost model will remain the same cost model as this year? And the board is aware that the district would absorb the rest of the cost from the general fund?
Try it one more time.
Well, so that percentage and reserve now goes down to 4, 4.4.
It'll go down a little bit.
But
You
I
never
guess
know, maybe I'll turn over a couple
make a
rocks.
decision if it doesn't fly this time. It's over.
Is this going to be a year-long thing then, rather than just the one semester?
I think, I think to advertise it, we go forth as a year to see what happens.
I'm very uneasy about that.
Well, forget the ridership, though.
If we don't get the ridership, it's over.
What's interesting, what we have.
If you try for a year first, and then, if you try for a year, and then next spring, we look for county money again, where they've said in a year there's going to be county money, and if there's really not, and the ridership is low, then you say, we tried. And then I think you don't try again in a couple of years, because you've given it your all, versus, I don't know, I think it's worth that 39,000 risk to say, we're really going to try, and the Connect the Coast side will be done with its process by then, right? So it's be done at the end of this year. So I just feel like it gives it that, that one last final year, and we're not committing to 39,000 every year for the next 10 years.
Right.
If it then at some point isn't subsidized or isn't fully funded, then it ends.
Yeah, because if it's communicated, it's a half-year program, we're going to test it, if it works out great, we're going to expand it, that dilutes our message, and that's going to impact.
I think that
sign-up.
impacts how many people sign up.
It will.
All right, you've persuaded me. You have
But I think in a year, we really say, is this going to work? Can we make this a model that we can expand in other ways? Is there a way, or is it, we got to go back to, there's just no transportation except for the limited amount we do.
Right, and part of the advertising is, tell your neighbor, this is a make it or break it year. If it doesn't work, it's over.
All right.
Hopefully that will.
I'll go along.
Yeah,
Okay.
but those aren't, but that's not the mechanism to drive behavior. It's convenience, price, and.
Ecologically, good for the
That's part of
earth.
it as well.
This is discussion.
Would you like to talk?
Yes.
Please come on up.
This is
Fill in a little
discussion.
green
so,
card
yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
I'm Bill Sorfleet. I have kids in the immersion program, live in Moss Beach. Part of the problem with the bus, one was the cost. I think you were about $1.60 one-way trip. Samtrans is $1, so there's 60 cents. You might want to consider if you just subsidize 60 cents, spend it at $1, you're out less money and get more ridership. That's one thing. Two, kids that are in zero period aren't able to take the bus because the bus is running later than zero period. So that took out a big chunk. A lot of those are immersion kids. The ones that are willing to spend the money can't do it. I believe it was only one way, or only morning. You keep talking about afternoon in the ride back. That wasn't an option. It's only a morning bus, so it'd help if you really know your program. And then the other item was there was a lot of confusion or uncertainty at the start as to what would happen on late days. What time's the bus going to run? Is it going to shift with it? So the initial information didn't get out well enough. While I was sitting back there, I was running through the emails from back through the summer. There were a lot of people interested. They just didn't know the program. So, like I said, maybe you consider subsidizing part of it. I'm sure everyone realizes public transit is heavily subsidized. They're losing money for the bus just like you are. So,
Just one radar.
Thank you. Good thought. Thank you. Thank you.
Come on, you know you two want to stand up.
That was sort of a theme tonight, wasn't it? Yeah. Thank you for adding to the discussion. It's appreciated. All right, so enough direction we got?
Yeah, you got
All
those
right.
comments?
Thank you.
Okay.
There's one item left on our agenda.
There is.
It is the strategic plan update. Progress of the development of the strategic plan. Dr. Rourke?
Well, this is a relatively short report. First off, I have yet to receive the documents, the draft strategic plan from the county, our county facilitators. I am meeting with the gentleman on March 26th to do so. And through some initial conversations with the governing board earlier this evening, we have set a special board meeting, a study session for April Fool's Day, April 1st. This is not an April Fool's Day joke. From 4 to 8, and we'll provide some light dinner for the governing board and participants as well. And at that time, we'll have our draft documents. They'll be sent out to the board, obviously, ahead of time. And we'll have our first opportunity to look closely at the work that was done by the strategic plan subcommittees, and for the board to have some input and direction in terms of, are we on target? Where do we need to make amendments? And then hopefully we'll have solid direction from the governing board to proceed and bring back at a future date a final document for approval.
All right, well done. Thank you. Item number 16 is future board agenda items. We're going to receive updates on the Common Core Plan, receive an energy report, receive an update on strategic planning, and approve policy maintenance updates, as well as adopt a resolution in recognition of Certificated and Classified Employees Week. Item number 17 is future events, dates, and requests, and I'm going to let you read that all by yourself, except I'd like to add two things. The spring high school musical is not on here, but it's opening March 20th.
And also,
And the Fairlawn View auction
and
is
the
not on
Algonata
here.
auction also is not.
So March 28th is the Fairlawn View auction, and when is El Granada's?
March 21st.
March 21st is the El Granada auction.
I'm pretty sure.
All right.
Hatch options this one.
And the hatch auction is this Saturday, yes.
And you all are complimentary invited to the Fairlawn View auction.
Complimentary?
When?
You don't have to buy a ticket.
When is it?
The Fairlawn View auction is March 28th.
Okay.
El Granada is March 21, and hatch is this Saturday, March 14th.
It's every week.
Yep.
It's coming up.
Auction month.
Auction
Public
month.
schools month.
And with that, we will return to closed session at 10:15.